He will pay. Vegeta stormed into his chamber, various items falling off of the shelves from his power alone. A very reliable source had just confirmed information that he had suspected for years. The planet Vegeta, his homeworld, had been destroyed by Frieza, the evil warlord. Now that he was certain it was time to take action. But first he needed allies. Goku smiled. His son was getting so big. It felt like only yesterday when he had defeated Piccolo at the World Martial Arts Tournament. Right after the fight he had gotten married, and not long after, his wife Chi-Chi gave birth to his son, Gohan. They were finally settling down into a routine life, and it seemed that the bliss would go on undisturbed forever. But Goku knew better. So every day he furthered his martial arts training, striving to be the perfect fighter. Half of his reason was to protect the world, but deep down, the real reason was the thrill he got from the fight. If he was not a warrior, then he was nothing. It was what defined him, and it came as naturally as eating to him. While he understood his nature, he did not understand why. Piccolo sat brooding near a waterfall, hovering in the lotus position as close as he could to the raging waters. He had been training, pushing his demonic body to the max for one sole purpose: the death of Goku. Goku had killed his father, and then humiliated him in the 23 Tenkaichi Budokai 5 years earlier. Piccolo had claimed he was fighting to conquer the world, but that thought did not pique his interest. He did not have a reason for living, save the death of his rival. But the evil Goku had spared his life, even given him a magical bean that restored his health. The bane of your existence was supposed to harm you, not heal you. The event had left Piccolo slightly flustered. No one had ever been nice to him before. Not only that, but he hadn't expected so much opposition that day. Goku defeated him, and by a very narrow margin, but there were others. Namely, a short fighter named Krillin had actually shown the potential to keep up with the green-skinned fighter. If he had continued his training along with the rest of Goku's friends, then Piccolo's chances of killing Goku were slim indeed. Perhaps it was time to find a new purpose. Krillin couldn't wait. Today he was going to get to see his best friend for the first time in years. After Goku had gotten married, he seemed to drop off the face of the earth. One day he had shown up at the Kame house, making a date to visit. Krillin had been out getting groceries, and was very unhappy about missing him. But how exciting! He wondered how strong Goku had gotten over the years. He had run into Tenshinhan at one point, and he saw Yamcha on a regular basis. To Krillin's great surprise, neither of his friends were as strong as he. While Yamcha was living in the city with Bulma, Tenshinhan was being chased around by Launch. They were both distracted by women. Krillin, however, diligently trained on his island. Maybe with Goku living with Chi-Chi, Krillin would have a chance at the next Budokai. As Krillin waited outside for his best friend to show up, he had no idea what would be in store for him in the future. Up above, a spaceship was hurtling toward Earth, and the lives of the strongest on Earth were all going to take a drastic turn. Nothing major, just setting the stage. Next chapter is where the real turn happens, as Raditz will meet his brother. Stay tuned, and let me know what you think. Chapter 2. Why are you babysitting that kid, Goku? Goku laughed at his best friend Krillin's question. I'm not babysitting, Krillin. He's my son, he exclaimed as he put Gohan down. Krillin's jaw dropped. Your son? Yep. His name is Gohan. Krillin nodded. You named him after his grandfather, huh? Goku smiled. Yeah. Isn't he cute? Gohan had wandered near the ocean, and had fallen down near the waves. Krillin frowned. Maybe, but he's nothing like you were at his age. Have you? Goku shook his head, a look of disgust forming on his face. Chi-Chi won't let me train him. She says martial arts are a waste of time. What? Then what does that make us? Goku lowered his head. Krillin, I don't know, but I don't know if we should push it. Something in the way she screams. Krillin shrugged. I don't get it. I mean, I know she's hot, but I don't know how you put up with her. Piccolo's meditation was cut short by a sudden wave of energy. His eyes shot open and he wildly looked around. That power feels like Goku. But there's no way he's gotten that strong. It's overwhelming. To Piccolo's dismay, The energy was heading right for him. He looked into the sky just in time to see a blur of color come flying down towards his position. Before he could even finish turning his head back to eye level, the color had materialized and formed into a man. He was indeed the man who was giving off the outrageous power level. He was as tall as the green fighter and much, much wider. His hair was similar to Goku's except it flowed down, reaching further down past his waist. There was a strange green-looking device attached to the stranger's eye. It made several beeping sounds, and the man scoffed at what he saw. Only 314? I could top that without even powering up. Your lucky Prince Vegeta sent me on a mission of peace, Green Man. You would have no chance at all if I was allowed to have my way with you. Piccolo glared at the newcomer. You sure do pack a lot of power for someone who has come in peace. You also carry yourself like someone who is used to battle. What brings you to my neck of the woods? Simple. The man pulled out a small circle which created a holographic image in the air. The image was of a child, which had a hairstyle exactly like Goku. Aha! Piccolo cried. You are in cahoots with Goku. I didn't think he was that cowardly as to send one of his friends after me. The man's eyebrow raised as Piccolo threw out his right arm in a claw attack. The arm stretched out way further than possible, and Piccolo's claws raked into the stranger's arm. The arm coiled back more in shock than in pain. Before the stretched-out arm could recoil, the rest of Piccolo came barreling forward, his knee crashing into his opponent's side. He brought his outstretched arm around and down like a whip when his enemy regained his senses and shot out, catching the arm with a sneer. Is that it, Green Man? Piccolo grinned as energy flowed through his arm and blasted out of the hand that the stranger was holding, the blast completely catching him by surprise. He let the captive limb go and clutched at his side, smoke still trailing from the light wound. The man laughed. Amazing. What he lacks in battle power, he more than makes up for in technique and resource. But enough fun. The man shot forward quicker than Piccolo could see and caught his head in his hand. You hold nothing but suspicion in your heart. Every little move your body makes is calculated for your benefit. You can tell everything about a person by the way he fights. You are a person who makes enemies of entire planets. Are you not? Piccolo's eyes widened in shock at the man's amazing insight. He was not used to people addressing him, let alone picking his brain. Yet he went on. You would adapt quite quickly to the life we lead. Never trusting anyone, always planning ways to get the drop on everyone. Your mind never rests for an instant. Does it? Piccolo grinned as all of his energy finished gathering into one point. His two outstretched fingers. You're damn right. Eat my demon ray. From his fingers a strange corkscrew of light shot out, barely nicking his opponent's face, leaving a slight scar and a trail of blood. Cursing himself for missing, Piccolo prepared himself for the blast of anger he knew he was due. Instead, he received only a small chuckle. He looked at the eyes of his enemy and only saw small traces of regret and sadness. You and I are alike in so many ways. He paused for a moment, shaking his head before going on. My name is Raditz. If we had the time, I would stick around longer. But I must find Kakarot. Perhaps we will meet again one day, Green Man. The man named Raditz shot off into the air, consulted the IPC war, and then speed off in a new direction, leaving a stunned Piccolo to dwell on his words. After several seconds, Piccolo decided he had nothing terribly important to do today, and flew off after him. It was obvious that wherever this man was going, it was going to get incredibly interesting very quickly. Tenshinhan's head hung as he approached Goku. Seeing his former rival made him realize how much he had neglected his training. I'm sorry, Goku. With launch distracting me all the time, I never have a moment to myself to train. Tien and Yamcha had arrived several minutes ago, and the four friends were sitting by the beach watching the waves. After Tien's comment, the group was silent, each contemplating their thoughts on the past 5 years. Now most of you readers at home don't know how it feels to sense the ki of another, so allow me to explain. If the energy is a familiar one, you feel a soothing wave flow through your senses. An evil force makes your senses all stand on end, as if your body was preparing itself for an attack. Your field of perception using ki alters based on your own level of power. Therefore, Goku was the first to feel Raditz's approach. Raditz' power was like nothing he had ever felt in his life. So strong was it, that for a moment, all of Goku's senses overloaded and shut down, leaving the young hero blind and deaf. Light and sound came flooding back into focus as his mind finally understood what it had felt. The power. It's tremendous. The rest of the warriors felt the power, and right after, the cause landed in front of them. Yamcha jumped up and pointed a trembling finger at the intruder. You, what do you think you are doing here? Raditz smiled. Relax, tough guy. I'm here to visit my brother. Everyone gasped in shock. Brother? Who could this obscenely powerful person be related to? With that thought in mind, everyone turned their head toward Goku. Goku looked around, not fully getting where everyone was going with their train of thought. What? You guys don't think? Goku looked hard at Raditz. Raditz returned the look with a knowing smile. Yes, Kakarot. It is I, your big brother Raditz. Kakarot? What's a kakarot? Sounds like a bad-tasting vegetable. What are you talking about? Kakarot is your name. Me? My name is Goku. But you must be Kakarot. You look exactly like father. Goku gave Raditz a confused look. Raditz looked Goku up and down and came to a startling realization. Your tail. What happened to your tail? Goku absent-mindedly rubbed the spot where his tail had once grown from when he was a child. My tail? I lost it. About 7 years ago, I had it removed. You fool. Without your tail, you can't access your full power. You won't be able to transform at the full moon. Krillin and Yamcha cringed as they thought back to when Goku had become a giant primate whenever he had seen a full moon as a child. Whenever he did, he would have no control over himself, and when everything was said and done, he would have no recollection of what he had done. Whatever, that isn't important. Do you remember anything about me, brother? Goku shook his head. I've never seen you before in my life. Raditz groaned. You must have bumped your head as a child. You know nothing of your heritage. Goku frowned. No. Why? Am I special or something? Raditz grinned. Why yes, dear brother. You are a Saiyan. You are a member of one of the most elite fighting races in the universe. Goku stared at his newfound brother in shock. Me? An alien? Yes, and we need your help. What's wrong? I thought you guys were a warrior race. Indeed we are, but there was a terrible disaster. An evil tyrant named Frieza destroyed our world. All of the Saiyans are gone, brother, including our father. The only ones left are the Prince, Vegeta, the commander of the Saiyan army, Nappa, you, and myself. Vegeta wishes to band together as the last remaining Saiyans and form a fighting force to destroy the evil tyrant. I have been sent to take you and begin training. Goku looked at the ground. It sounds so incredible. But for some reason, I believe you. I'll go with you. Tien put his hand on Goku's shoulder. Don't worry, Goku. We'll come with you. Raditz scoffed. These are your allies, Kakarot. Let me read their power levels. He pressed a button on his eyepiece, and numbers began popping up. Let's see. The one with 3 eyes clocks in at 206. The hotshot is 177. And the small one tops off at 250. And you yourself, Kakarot. You have 326. Raditz frowned. Not very impressive. Vegeta would not be pleased if I brought him a group of weaklings. Yamcha growled. Oh yeah? If you're so tough, what's your power at? Raditz grinned, and a slight chuckle escaped his lips. Me? Gentlemen, I have a power level of 1250. Krillin shook his head. No way. His power feels huge, but he can't be that much stronger than us. I'll tell you what, boys. We'll have a friendly match. If you 4 can take me down, I will allow you all to come. If not, only Kakarot shall accompany me. Fair. Yamcha cringed. Only a friendly match, right? I don't feel like dying. Raditz nodded. No killing. Just knock me out and you win. Goku grinned. Don't worry guys, we can take him. There's 4 of us and only one of him. He can't take us all on. Tien, Yamcha, I want you to attack from either side. Krillin, jump around behind him. We've got to keep him surrounded. Yamcha flew off towards the left, and Tien to the right. Krillin performed a flying leap over Raditz' head. Goku stood his ground as his allies got it no position. Yamcha and Tien flew at Raditz from both sides in a pincer attack. Right before they hit their mark, Raditz stuck out both of his hands and emitted a small portion of energy, stopping both of them in their tracks. He grabbed them each by the foot. He yanked hard, and the two warriors' heads collided with a sickening thud. Krillin had landed behind Raditz and sprung off into a backward spinning kick. Without looking, Raditz tilted his head slightly to the left. Krillin went barreling past, unable to stop his momentum, his kick landing in Goku's face. Goku fell to his knees, clutching his cheek. Krillin turned around just in time to see Raditz's hand engulf his head. Raditz lifted Krillin and slammed him into the turf. Goku stood up and shook his head. Krillin really has been training. Ow. Raditz turned to Goku and grinned. Is this the best your earthling friends can do, Kakarot? Tien stood up slowly, holding his head in his hands. Krillin managed to pull his head out of the ground. Raditz let out a laugh. Even if you do knock me out, it will only be through the efforts of Kakarot. Tien growled. We can beat you without Goku. That was a warm-up. Tien turned to Goku. Goku, stay out of this. We can take him down. Goku nodded and jumped back. Krillin and Tien nodded at each other and dashed forward. Raditz pulled up his arms in time to block the two humans' onslaught. As the three exchanged blows, Yamcha sat up, the blood throbbing as it pumped through his head. He shook off his grogginess and concentrated all of his energy into his palm. A small orb formed and he smiled. Let's see how you handle my Sokoden. He preformed a series of complicated motions with his hands, and the power ball shot off towards the melee. Raditz did not slow for a second, and he began to dodge Yamcha's energy attack while avoiding Krillin and Tien's attacks. After several seconds of choice, Krillin managed to land a kick into Raditz's leg, causing minimal damage but a perfect distraction. Raditz broke his concentration just long enough for Yamcha to connect with his Sokoden to the back of his opponent's head. Raditz fell forward into Tien's knee as Krillin charged his Kamehameha. He put his hands to Raditz's exposed stomach and fired it off at point-blank range, sending the Saiyan sprawling. No sooner had he crashed to the floor, Tien performed a series of motions with his fingers, finally bringing his two hands together in the shape of a diamond. Kiko ho! The energy lifted Raditz off the floor, and the humans rejoiced. It looked like they had done it. Yamcha relaxed, his shoulders sagging a little bit. He went to turn around when he heard Goku cry, Yamcha, look out! Just as the words reached him, so did Raditz's arm in a cloth-saline attack. Yamcha's face smashed into the ground, and the force was so great he bounced back up again. Raditz kicked out into his stomach, and Yamcha rolled to a stop near Tien. Yamcha groaned. Is this guy invincible? Wait a minute. He has a tail. Like Goku. Memories flooded back to him, of days when he and Goku were younger. The young boy's only weakness had been his tail. Yamcha decided that was their only chance. He turned to Tien. Tien, can you distract him? I only need a second. Tien gave Yamcha a look of doubt, but then nodded. I can give you 5. Great. Krillin, be ready to attack on my signal. What kind of attack? We need to knock him out. Use your strongest hit, but don't kill him. Krillin gulped. I don't think we have to worry about that. Yamcha grinned. Don't worry, I have an idea. Krillin raised an eyebrow. What did you have in mind? Think back to the 20-second Budokai. Krillin furrowed his brow for a moment, and then the light of recognition went off in his head. His tail, of course. Krillin simply smiled. I know what you have in mind. Let's pray it works. Raditz chuckled. Are you 3 done with your strategy session? Have you decided you need Kakarot after all? Tien shook his head. Nope. We decided to give you a little gift. Raditz gave them a suspicious look. A gift. Tien put his hands to his head. Krillin and Yamcha covered their eyes. Teiyo-ken. A bright light flooded the sky, causing Raditz to momentarily lose his sight. Now! Yamcha dashed forward, grabbing Raditz's tail as quickly as he could. Once he had it, he squeezed it as tight as possible. Raditz gave a little yelp and then fell to his knees. Krillin suddenly appeared above him, moving too fast for the eye to see. He charged ki into both of his hands, and then brought them down in an axe-handle smash, connecting with the base of Raditz's neck. Raditz sagged a bit, and then hit the floor, out cold. Yamcha let go of his death grip on the tail and took a deep breath. "We did it, guys." Goku came over and patted him on the back. "Awesome work." The humans celebrated their victory, unaware that someone was watching over them. Piccolo grimaced. "He made the same mistake as I." Apparently, these humans are not ones to be underestimated. Goku managed to wake his brother after a good 10 minutes of shaking and yelling. His best friends Krillin, Yamcha, and Tien had managed to defeat the overly powerful Saiyan by working together as a team, and yes, by exploiting the poor bastard's only weakness. Raditz sat up and gave a weak smile. "You choose your allies very well, Kakarot. I'm amazed they managed to defeat me with such minuscule power ratings. If properly trained, I believe they could be key in defeating Frieza." Krillin beamed with satisfaction. "An ultra-powerful alien is saying that about me. Boy, I've sure moved up in the world. If only Mutant Rashi could see me now. It's a shame he's away at that entertainment convention." He shook his head free of any disturbing thoughts involving his master and jumped back into the conversation. "So, Raditz? When are we leaving on this mission?" Raditz nodded. "I'm glad you asked. We will leave for Frieza planet number 79 immediately." Tien gave Raditz a bewildered look. "Frieza planet? I thought you said he was the villain?" Raditz hung his head. "Now you come to the irony of the situation. Without a race of followers, Vegeta is merely a prince in name only. Frieza has basically enslaved him, and he sits, biding his time, waiting for the right moment to strike." Goku looked like he was ready to burst into tears. "That's terrible. How does he stand it? If it were me, I would just train until I was strong enough to beat him. That's what he is doing." Planet number 79 was Frieza's way of taking another stab at Vegeta. He told him if he wanted to be a prince so bad, he would need a planet. And so he gave him one. Yamcha shrugged his shoulders. "If someone gave me a planet, I'd be happy as hell. I don't see what this Vegeta's problem is." Raditz struggled for a way to explain. "You see, Frieza planet number 79 is the equivalent of what you humans would refer to as..." At this point, his eyepiece began listing off strange words, obviously translating something to its owner. Finally, he saw what he was looking for. "Ah, yes. It is what you would call a gas station." Krillin stared dumbly at Raditz a few moments before bursting out in laughter. "This mighty prince is the prince of a gas station?" Yamcha and Goku joined in, imagining a big prince with a tail, an angry glare, regal features, and above all, overalls and a hat with a name tag that said Vegeta. Come on, you guys at home, try it too. It really is as funny as it sounds. Just picture him, and the look he would have on his face. "I am the prince of all gas stations." Raditz gave them a stern glare. "Well, Prince Vegeta doesn't find it quite as amusing as you gentlemen do. But that is unimportant. We leave now. Follow me." They all went to take off, when a whiny voice rang out from in the house. "Hey, Dad. Where are you going? Can I come? Dad? Dad?" They all turned around as Gohan came waddling out of the Kame house, his vision obscured by one of Rashi's magazines that had fallen over his face. Goku jumped up and snatched it off of his son's head. Gohan gave one or two grabs to try to get it back, shrugged, and began tugging on his father's leg. "So where are we going, huh, Dad? Ha ha ha." Goku looked at his friends. "That's right, guys. I have to get Gohan home, and I have to ask Chi-Chi if I can go." Krillin rolled his eyes. "Goku, this is the first time she's let you out to visit your childhood friends in over 5 years. What makes you think she's gonna let you go out into space for who knows how long?" Goku hung his head. "He's right. Chi-Chi won't let me go. What are we gonna do now?" Suddenly, a terrible grin spread across Tien's face. "I have a perfect solution." "What? You mean I have to take this kid to Goku's wife, and then explain that he went off into space to fight aliens?" Goku nodded. Do you need me to get Krillin to write that down for you, Chaozu? Chaozu shook his head, praying he would wake up, and this would all have been a bad dream. When he finished, however, Goku and Tien were still towering over him, expecting him to do all the hard work. After all, they were only going off to fight superpowered aliens. He would have to deal with a superpowered wife. He shuddered. He decided to try a different approach. But Tien, what about launch? She'll miss you. Tien's head shot up in panic. That's right. He turned to Raditz. Can we leave like right now? Kawazu slapped his forehead. She's gonna shoot me, he muttered to himself. He decided to play the sarcasm card. So all I have to do is deliver this kid. Tell Chi-Chi Goku will be gone indefinitely, and tell Launch her male fantasy is running away on a spaceship. Yamcha shook his head. You also have to tell Bulma that I'm going too. Kawazu gave up. Goody. They can all throw a party and kill me together. Yamcha shook his head. Nah. Bulma'll probably give you money if you tell her I'm gone. Krillin made a mental note to ask him about that on the trip. Once again, Kawazu made an attempt to save his bacon. Look, Goku. I really don't think this is a good idea. Tien waved, both he and Goku ignoring his plea. We'll return home as soon as we can, Kawazu. The world is in your hands till we get back. And with that, Earth Special Forces, the Z-Senshi, flew off to parts unknown. Kawazu kicked at the dirt, grumbling over his bad fortune. He was a psychic. Shouldn't he be able to see these things coming? Well, I can definitely see what's next in my future. And it's a frying pan. Could this day get any worse? Someone tapped him on the shoulder. He turned around. I'm gonna be an orthopedist, Gohan stated proudly. Kawazu just sighed. Shut up, kid. Chi-Chi sighed as she finished stacking dishes by the sink. I wonder what's keeping those two. Goku promised me they would be back in time for dinner. Suddenly, a knocking on the door interrupted her thoughts. Oh, that must be them. But why would Goku knock? She mused as she answered the door. Standing outside was not what she had expected. Her son was standing there, but instead of her husband, a strange little clown was floating in the air. After a moment, the clown waved. Hey, Chi-Chi. It's been a while, huh? The clown knows my name? Strange as it was, the clown seemed strangely familiar. Finally, it dawned on her. You're one of Goku's friends, right? Kawazu, was it? Chaozu shook his head. Close, but no. It's Chaozu. You were at the tournament a couple of years ago, right? With Piccolo. Chaozu nodded. It seems like so long ago, doesn't it? He's acting really anxious about something. Chi-Chi decided to get straight to the root of the matter. Why do you have my child? Where is my husband? Chaozu looked at the ground. Well, about that, why see? He's not exactly, here. Chi-Chi gave him a lopsided look. Of course he isn't here. Where is he? Chaozu shrugged. Space. What? Chaozu took in a deep breath. Well, he was asked to help a race of aliens fight an evil tyrant. Turns out Goku is an alien. Chi-Chi lost all her steam and sagged her shoulders. What are you talking about? Chaozu sighed and sat down, preparing to tell her the whole story. This is your spaceship? It's kinda small, isn't it? Raditz growled. Well, I thought I was only taking Kakarot. I didn't know there were going to be so many of you. Yamcha groaned. This is going to be a long trip. Yamcha, Tien, and Krillin stepped into the ship. Goku went to go in, but stopped as he felt something scrape the back of his mind. He turned around and looked up into the air. Raditz gave him a questioning glance. What is it, Kakarot? Goku bunched his eyebrows. It feels like someone is watching us. Raditz clicked on his scouter. There was a beep, and a number showed up. He smiled as he realized who the mystery presence was. All right, Green Man, you can show yourself now. Piccolo floated down from the inside of a cloud. Goku, are you really going to leave this planet here for me to take over? Goku sighed. That's right. Piccolo will destroy the world if we leave him alone. Raditz grinned. Well then, we'll just take him with us then. Piccolo gave a snort. And what makes you think I'm coming with you? Before Piccolo could say another word, Raditz was already right in his face, the grin not moving. And what makes you think you have a choice? Piccolo stammered, trying to come up with a response. He's right. I can't defeat all of them together. What can I do? Piccolo glared at them and sighed. I suppose if I don't come along, you might all run into trouble. I guess you really need me. It's not like I have a busy schedule. I guess I'll just put my world domination plans on hold while I help you losers. Raditz smirked, letting the Green Warrior have the last word. Let him say whatever he needs to convince himself. He is a crafty warrior, and properly trained, he will be a big help. Raditz stepped onto the ship, motioning for Earth's mightiest two fighters to follow him. Goku and Piccolo glared at each other, both daring the other to go in first. After several minutes, Goku finally buckled, rubbing his stomach. I'm going to find out what kind of food they have on this ship. Raditz rolled his eyes. Goku climbed in and smiled at his brother. So, where's the fridge? Raditz nodded. You must at least eat like a Saiyan. You'll be pleased with the mess hall on this ship. It's the last door on the right. Goku happily bounded off towards the food. Raditz turned back toward Piccolo. Well, coming, Green Man? Piccolo grudgingly stepped into the ship, for the first time wondering where his life would take him. Raditz sighed as he prepared the ship for takeoff. It's going to be an interesting trip. Kakarot and the Green One obviously don't get along. And Prince Vegeta isn't going to be pleased when I bring him a bunch of low-power fighters. Once he had set the coordinates, he got up, his Saiyan stomach calling him towards the kitchen. On the way, he ran into the human who was named Yamcha. Yamcha grinned nervously. Raditz growled. Yes. Well, this Frieza guy, just how powerful is he? Think of it this way, human. You understand that my power level is approximately 1250. Correct. Yamcha nodded. And you realize that your power level is 177. Yes? Yamcha hung his head. Yeah. Raditz's face turned grim. Frieza is rumored to be able to power up to 500,000. As we are right now, even with our combined might, we are nowhere even close to being able to fight with Frieza. Do you understand our dilemma now, human? Yamcha couldn't find the words to talk. His face had gone white, and he managed to stammer out a faint, "Why? Yes," before he wordlessly walked away. Raditz thought he heard a mumbled, "We're gonna die," as the human warrior walked away. Raditz shook his head as he continued his trek to the food. He turned the corner and saw a sight he had not seen in years. Goku was sitting at a table that was completely filled with food. He was shoveling the food with both hands into his mouth, not even stopping for air. You've all seen the anime. I don't really need to describe it. Raditz was too shocked for words as he watched his brother eating. To him, it looked just as his father at the table, something he hadn't seen since he was very young, during a lull in business. The drop in work had left both Saiyans at home at the same time, a rare occurrence for the entrepreneur race. Suddenly seeing Goku eating brought him back to that time. Bardock was shoveling food in a manner that was very similar to the Saiyan we all know and love. Raditz sat down next to him and picked up a leg of meat. He took a bite and his face twisted in distaste. He spit out the meat and dropped the leg. Before he knew what had happened, Bardock reached out and slapped Raditz in the face, lifting him off of his chair and spinning him midair. Raditz sat up, holding his throbbing cheek. "WH, what was that for?" Bardock glared at his son in between bites. "You have no right to waste that food." Raditz stared at his father. "No. Right? But this is Gulther meat. It's inexpensive." "That's not the point. All life is sacred. That creature gave its life for you to eat. You will respect that creature, as it is sacrificing itself for you." Raditz glared at the ground. Hard to respect life when all we do is destroy it. Quicker than lightning, Bardock had picked Raditz up and held him to the wall. "How dare you speak like that? To destroy other planets is not our will. The Honorable Frieza commands it, and we have no choice." Now Bardock's face was inches from his son's. "Do you think we want to do this? I do this to protect you. And for Kakarot, if we do not do as Frieza commands, he will destroy us. It is the same as eating. We must hurt others to survive. At this point, Bardock lowered a stunned Raditz to the ground, and his voice lowering. Maybe it is wrong, though. Perhaps it is best if we let ourselves be erased. Raditz could not think of anything to say, and sat there, watching his father's plight. When I get strong enough, I will defeat Frieza. Father, then we will not have to harm others anymore. Goku saw Raditz staring blankly off into space. He picked up a leg of meat and waved it in front of the Saiyan. Hey, Raditz! Wake up, man! It's lunch time! Raditz snapped back to reality and looked at the meat. He slowly reached out and took it. Goku rubbed his stomach. That meat is delicious. What is it? Raditz softly replied, It is Gulther meat. Before slowly taking a bite. He did not seem to enjoy it, but he ate the entire leg. Then he threw the bone down and began to walk away. Goku gave him a concerned look and chased after him. Hey, aren't you hungry? Raditz gave a half-hearted no and walked off. Goku scratched the back of his neck. I wonder what got into him? He shrugged and sat down to finish his meal. Raditz sat down in his private chamber, sulking over his reopened memories. He looked at a portrait of him and his father. Father, I can't believe you died. I always said I would defeat Frieza for you, and I still will. Now I have Kakarot with me. He looks just like you. You would be very proud of him. He grew up without having to hurt people. He protects them just as you yearn to. I believe he will be the one to stop Frieza. He is not strong, but his heart has more in it than Prince Vegeta himself. I can't wait to see how his training turns out. He stood up, deciding he needed something to take his mind off of his past. Suddenly he remembered Piccolo. He is also one who hurts people unwillingly. Maybe I can talk to him. It is obvious that no one has ever tried before. I wonder why a Namekian is living on Earth. I wonder if he knows? Raditz felt his stomach grumble as he went off to find Piccolo. I should have stuck around and eaten something. Piccolo growled at his opponent. Trying to use one of the humans as a sparring partner was a ridiculous waste of time. The human leaves himself open every time he moves. He swung his foot in a quick arc, catching Tien in the side. What sort of defense is that? Anyone could break through that guard. You better make this session worth my time, human. Tien grimaced as he staggered backwards, holding his side. The demon was moving far too quickly for him, and they both knew it. He had to come up with something quick, or Piccolo would end this match swiftly. Tien gulped. It's not the ending part one don't mind. It's the fact that I don't know if Piccolo would kill me or not. I still don't trust that demon. Piccolo grinned. I see the fear in your eyes, human. Very observant of you. You are correct. You will be lucky to leave here alive. Tien's eyes flashed open in shock. Piccolo took the opportunity to dash forward, slamming his elbow into Tien's chest, knocking the Triclops backwards. Piccolo flashed a toothy smile as he prepared himself for the knockout blow. And if I do more than stun him, who's to blame? Perhaps he should have trained harder. Piccolo charged his ki into his fist and threw it at his enemy at a blinding speed. Before it reached his mark, a loud voice rang out, bringing Piccolo's attack to a halt. Green man, quit picking on the humans. Or do I have to step in and make you look foolish? Piccolo lowered his fist, grumbling as he knocked Tien back with a gust of air. Tien stumbled toward the exit of the training room, ashamed at himself for not being able to defend himself. My training will be redoubled, of this there is no doubt, he thought to himself as he walked out of the room. Piccolo turned to Raditz. There was no need to interrupt. I was just having a bit of fun. Raditz smirked. And would you have known when you had went too far? Piccolo's face turned sour. Do not underestimate me. If I recall correctly, I had the chance to kill you during our scuffle. So do not act as if you are invincible. Raditz's face did not move from its smile. You had the chance, indeed. But if I recall, you choked on the delivery of that ray. You had a clean shot. What happened? Break in concentration. Or perhaps I struck a nerve with my little speech. Piccolo looked at the ground, fighting the instinct to swing at the taller man. It would do me no good. Even if I somehow manage to beat him, there's still the matter of Goku and his friends. It is undignified, but I will bear it for the time being. I will have to wait until a time where my options are a little less limited. He pulled his head up, setting his best look of utter hatred upon Raditz. What do you want from me? Raditz shook his head. Well, a change of attitude would be nice. Piccolo spit on the ground at Raditz's feet. How was that? Well, I was hoping for something a bit more positive, but whatever makes you comfortable. I will ask you again. What do you want from me? Raditz sat down and grinned. You remember my assessment of you when we first met? Piccolo nodded wordlessly. Well, how was it? Was I on target? Piccolo growled. You already know the answer to that. Raditz nodded. Yes, but I want to hear you say it. Why? You will be a valuable ally in the coming battles. But I need to know that you will be with us. In order to ascertain that, I wish to delve into your psyche. Air shot out of Piccolo's nostrils as he snorted. Well, I wish you the best of luck, but I do not think you are going to get anywhere. Why do you shut yourself off from everyone? A snarl emerged from Piccolo's throat. Well, I suppose after having solitude forced on me from birth, it sort of came naturally to me. Raditz raised an eyebrow. Forced upon you? Piccolo looked at the ground. I do not want to talk about it. Well, we can sit here all night if you want. Several hours went by. Piccolo had gone into a meditative stance and had quietly spent his time in mental training. Raditz was running out of patience and was about to break his promise. Right before he could, Piccolo's voice broke the silence. My father. Raditz turned to Piccolo. Your father. Yes. He was a demon of great power and of great evil. Sounds like Frieza, Raditz thought. My father was killed by Goku. A ray of hope lit up in Raditz's head. Kakarot killed the demon? If he killed the demon, perhaps he is capable of destroying Frieza as well. Piccolo nodded. The last act of my father was to give birth to me and to charge me with his mission, the eradication of humankind and the death of Son Goku. Since my birth, I was shunned by all of humanity because of my green skin. I wandered the earth alone, slowly locking myself away. No one would listen to me, and therefore, I would not allow anyone the satisfaction of ignoring me. I would not give them anything to ignore. Raditz mulled quietly to himself. Being born into a world that hates you, being forced to do evil for a madman. Sounds like the life of a Saiyan, but instead of a demon father, we have Frieza. At first, I didn't want to listen to my father's voice in my head. How could I trust someone would left me alone at the moment of my conception? To pass the time, I began watching the humans from afar. Piccolo continued. I found that they were just as guilty as evil as my father was. They simply committed their sins on a smaller scale. I stopped questioning my father's mandate and decided that I would eradicate the hypocritical humans. I would fulfill my destiny as a demon. You aren't a demon. Raditz cut into Piccolo's monologue, stopping him dead in his tracks. What? You aren't a demon. Well then, how do you explain the green skin? Raditz shook his head. You are a child of the planet Namek. Piccolo gave a estranged look. Namek? The name sounded foreign, but at the same time it was just as familiar as his name. It is a planet in the west quadrant of the universe. The Nameks are a peaceful race which owns sacred baubles known as Dragon Balls. Piccolo's eyes widened in shock. The Dragon Balls? Then it must be true. Kami and I are Nameks? Raditz smiled. I see you realize it is true. Piccolo held his head in his hands. Why were we on Earth? Raditz shook his head. There is no way to be sure, but a long time ago, a great disaster befell the Nameks. Several Namekians fled the planet, and only one who stayed on the planet survived. He became known as the Great Elder Guru who reflowered the Namekian race. He gave birth to 108 Nameks, and they have lived peacefully since. Perhaps you were born from one who escaped the catastrophe. Piccolo nodded. There is no other explanation, so perhaps you are correct. Raditz stood up and turned away. I have given you much to consider, so I will leave you. We will arrive on Frieza planet number 79 in a few days. Piccolo grunted in acknowledgement as he pulled himself back into his meditation. Raditz walked out of the room, desperate to find something to eat. Tien pulled himself out of a shadow in the hallway. So that is Piccolo's story. I'm sure Cammy would be interested in this information. I need to contact Chaozu. Tien sat in the small chamber provided for sleep. At the moment, Krillin and Yamcha were not around, so he had the area to himself. He closed his eyes and concentrated. It was not as easy to contact Chaozu from such a great distance. This was his first time in space, after all. Finally, after probing for several seconds, the familiar key of the little emperor was found. Chaozu, can you hear me? Tien, is that you? Of course. How are things on Earth, my little friend? I finally got Chi-Chi to calm down. That was not easy, you know. Good work. What of Bulma and Launch? Well, Bulma just shrugged and said he was better off in outer space. I didn't stick around, but I haven't been able to find Launch. I see. Well, for now, it is unimportant. I need you to talk to Cammy for me. Cammy? Yes. I have information that he might find pertinent. What's pertinent? Have you been keeping up with your studies, Chaozu? Yeah, of course. Chaozu, I can peer into your thoughts. You cannot lie to me. Sorry, Tien. It's just so boring. A good warrior knows his weaknesses and corrects them. You must continue your studying. Fine. I'll let you know when I get to Cammy's tower. Excellent. I await your arrival. Tien pulled himself out of his telepathic connection. I need to take my own advice. It is time to train. I cannot be this far behind Piccolo and Goku. Even they are nothing when in comparison to Raditz. And Raditz is deathly afraid of this Frieza. Scared enough to swallow his pride and ask for assistance. At the moment, we are nothing more than a hindrance. Even Goku. We must strive to reach a new plateau of power. Tien left his room and went off to find someone to spar with. But for the moment, we will leave Piccolo out of my training regiment. Down at the end of the hall, Tien found Krillin sitting in a corner, attempting to meditate. Tien tapped Krillin on the shoulder, bringing the small monk out of his inner thoughts. Oh, hey Tien, what can I do for you? Do you want to spar? Krillin nodded, standing up. Awesome. They have this strange machine here that UPS the gravity of the training room. I tried to get Yamcha to try it, but he was a little worried. Come on, if this thing works the way I think it does, we'll get really strong really fast. You in? Tien shook his head. Have you ever known me to turn down a chance to get stronger? Krillin grinned as he messed with several buttons on the gravity machine. The room was bare, except for the huge machine that was in the center of the room. You ready for 2 times Earth's gravity? Tien nodded. Will we be able to go all out in this room? I talked to Raditz earlier. He said the walls are specially designed to absorb ki. We can't blow this room up. Tien smirked. Then you are in serious trouble. Krillin dropped into his version of the Kame Sennin stance. He lifted his right arm behind his head and brought his left arm in front of him for protection. He laughed softly and motioned for Tien to attack him. I hope you can back that up. Tien dashed at Krillin, swinging his arm in a backhand chop. Krillin flipped over the strike, shooting in small energy blast down towards Tien. Tien spun around and caught the blast, causing it to dissipate in his hands. Krillin took the opportunity to land a kick into the midsection of the Triclops, causing him to skid across the ground. He flipped up, bouncing off the wall. He twisted his body so that his elbow was flying directly at Krillin. Krillin smiled, his form suddenly becoming a blur. Several faded copies of the smaller fighter began appearing from every angle. Tien's eyes narrowed. You know this trick won't work on me, Krillin. My third I can spot you out no problem. Tien lashed out with his knee, falling forward as he passed through the illusion. An energy ball came flying from behind him, and he barely managed to dodge out of the way. Different copies of Krillin began shooting off blasts, the volley getting harder for Tien to dodge as the ki began coming out faster. Tien grimaced as a blast graced his side. This wouldn't be so hard if I knew where he was coming from. This gravity isn't making things any easier. How is Krillin able to move this fast in this room? The little guy must have been training very hard these past few years. I have so much catching up to do. Tien put his hands to his forehead, performing one of the signature moves of the Tsuru Senin style. Teoken, a blinding flash shot out, flooding the room and stopping Krillin in his tracks. Tien quickly locked on to the monk's key signal and shot forward with a flying kick, catching Krillin square in the jaw. His head bounced off of a wall, and he fell to the ground. The gravity had begun taking its toll, and he found it harder to stand up. He shakily got to his feet. Nice shot. I forgot about the Fist of the Sun. And the literal translation of Teoken. Tien smirked. You've grown a lot in the past few years. Then again, it makes sense. You were keeping up with us when you were still a child. Now that you have matured, you managed to pull ahead. Goku also went through this. When we all gathered for the 23rd Budokai, we had all gotten stronger. But you and Goku were beyond us. The transition from being a boy to a man increased your talent as well as your power. I mean, you managed to master the Buku Jutsu, what allows everyone to fly, by yourself. That was unheard of. Do you know how long it took Yamcha to do it? Even with both Chaozu and I teaching him, it took him forever to get the hang of it. He still isn't very good at it. Krillin rubbed the back of his head, his face taking on a reddish hue. He wasn't used to praise. Well, thanks, Tien. Being the first to train with Goku helped too. Something about him brings out the competitive spirit. You know what I mean? Tien nodded. All too well. But enough of this. Let's finish this match. Krillin dropped back into his stance. You want to lose already? Tien grinned as he dashed forward. Careful, Krillin. You may have aptitude and power, but I have experience on my side. Overconfidence can defeat even the greatest of fighters. The two fighters flew towards each other at an incredible rate, when suddenly a voice rang out from inside Tien's head. Tien, I'm at Kami's lookout. The sudden shout broke through Tien's concentration, allowing Krillin to put his fist into Tien's face. The varying forces of momentum all collided, and Tien went sprawling into a wall. He shook his head and sat up. Chaozu, you have the worst timing in the world. Krillin walked over to Tien. Are you all right? What happened? Tien smiled. Good shot. Chaozu sent me a telepathic message. It sort of derailed my train of thought. Krillin nodded. Well, I think we've done enough damage for one day. Maybe we should call it quits. Tien tried to get up, but his depleted energy, coupled with the enhanced gravity, prevented him from doing so. Krillin went over to the machine and turned it off. Tien jumped into the air and almost hit his head on the ceiling. He hit the floor and looked at his own body in awe. I feel like I'm half as heavy as I was before we started. Krillin grinned. I figured this would happen. It's similar to Master Roshi's method of training. Once you get used to moving your body with extra weight, it makes moving around without it extra easy. Excellent. We will be able to make great progress with this machine. I have to go talk to Chaozu now, but we'll have another session soon. Tien excused himself and found a quiet spot to sit down. Sorry, Chaozu. I had to finish up with Krillin. Have you spoken to Kami yet? Not yet. I thought it would make more sense to wait until you told me what you needed him to hear. Of course. Well, can you read my mind from where you are? It's a little fuzzy, but hold on. It was several minutes before Chaozu responded. Wow, Piccolo and Kami are aliens? Yes, I think he deserves to know. Explain what is going on with this mission, and be sure to tell him about his past. Okay, he's here now. There was several minutes of silence as Chaozu relayed the message. The next thought that came was in the voice of Kami. Thank you for attempting to contact me, Tien, but I already know. Really? How did you find out? I share a bond with Piccolo. Everything he hears, I hear. Everything I see, he sees. We were once one and the same, if you remember. Ah, I see. So you know where we are as well. Yes. Your mission is a dangerous one, and I pray everything will work out. We are all going to undergo heavy training, so hopefully we will be fine. Very well. I will leave you to get back to it. Good luck. Train hard, Tien. I will, Chaozu. Don't forget your studies. Yeah. Oh, I almost forgot. Goku's son, Gohan, came up to me. And he wants to become strong like his father so he can protect his mother while he is gone. He has asked me to train him. Oh, does Chi-Chi know? She says that as long as he continues to study as well, she has no problem. The son of Kame Sennin's greatest student being trained in the way of the crane? Interesting. Perhaps you should oblige. What's oblige mean? Oh. You better not let this interfere with your own studies, Chaozu. Krillin rubbed his shoulder as he walked away from his training session with Tien. I can't believe I can keep up with Tien now. I remember when even Goku lost to him. I wonder where Goku is now? Krillin stopped dead in his tracks, slapping his forehead. What a stupid question. He swiveled around and headed for the kitchen. Inside the kitchen, Goku was sitting in front of an empty table, and he looked as if he was about to cry. Krillin tilted his head to one side. What's the matter, Goku? Goku hung his head and sighed. The inboard computer said I can't have any more food today. Something about rationing for the trip. Krillin chuckled. Well, we do have a few more days in this hunk of metal. You don't want to run out of food, do you? Goku's eyes bulged out. That wouldn't happen, would it? It couldn't. See? Could it? The way you eat, anything's possible. Goku grinned. Well then, we should get out of this kitchen. The smell is driving me crazy. Krillin and Goku left the kitchen and began aimlessly walking around. Goku rubbed the back of his neck, smiling. We sure have come a long way, haven't we, Krillin? Krillin nodded. Remember when we used to train with Old Man Rashi? Yeah, those were the days. And now we're heading off to fight some crazy alien from space. How are you holding up? Goku gave Krillin a confused look. What do you mean? Krillin shook his head. Well, you did just find out you were an alien. How does that make you feel? Well, I always was special, even as a kid. It doesn't bother me much. Really? Goku nodded. And even if I am an alien, I was still raised on Earth. I still trained on Kame Island, and I was still raised by my grandpa. Being an alien doesn't change any of that, so it doesn't bother me. Krillin smiled. I guess I hadn't thought of it like that. Yep. You always were a simple guy, Goku. Goku grinned. I guess I should take that as a compliment. Goku and Krillin walked past the training room. Hey, Krillin. Raditz told me that they have some pretty serious training equipment here. Want to take a crack at it? Krillin shook his head. Tien and I just went around in there. I think I'll pass. Goku nodded. Okay, I think I'm gonna go try it out. I'll catch you later. Krillin waved and kept walking. Maybe I'll try to finish that meditation Tien pulled me out of. Raditz said that all the walls on the ship are key resistant, so I won't have to worry about damaging anything if I need to release all my energy. Krillin took a seat in the corner of the hall and closed his eyes. Without even meaning to, his mind wandered to the days before he had met Goku. Hey, little Krillin. An 8-year-old Krillin turned his head in fear. Just as he thought, one of the older students at the Orin Temple had come to take the stress of his training out on the young boy. Krillin attempted to hide in a shadow, but the older student reached out and snatched the young Shaolin up. Time for your beating, little punk. Krillin assumed a begging position, pleading with the much larger bully. Not today. I meet the head of the temple today. I don't want to be all beat up when I go in there. The older monk's eyes flared. You get to meet the head monk today. You can't meet with him until you have trained for at least 10 years. Krillin hung his head. Master said that the head monk saw. Krillin trailed off. What? What did he see that's letting you meet with him so early? I don't want to say. You're gonna get mad. The bully growled, lifting Krillin by his robes, bringing the two students eye to eye. I'm already mad, you waste of life. Now, you have one last chance to tell me what the head monk saw. Krillin cringed, awaiting the outburst that was to follow his answer. He saw a lot of potential in me, I was told. The older monk dropped Krillin, his face a max of disbelief. Why, you? But I'm the star student of our class. There's no way the head monk saw potential in you. There must be a mistake. The monk's face went from a look of shock to a look of jealousy as he turned to Krillin. You little upstart. Who the hell do you think you are? Krillin closed his eyes, readying himself for the first strike. Several hours later found him sitting in the lotus position facing the head monk of Orin Temple. Neither of them had made a sound since the young boy had come in. His face was bruised, and there was still a small bit of blood on his upper lip. Finally, the head monk spoke. What is your name, child? K. Krillin, O great master. The head monk had actually spoken to him. What an honor, he thought. The head monk nodded. You have a great potential, young Krillin. Much more potential that can be fulfilled here. Soon, your destiny will take you from the walls of Orin. There you shall find your true master. Krillin looked at the monk in shock. Leave Orin? The other students despise you, do they not? Krillin hung his head, attempting to hide the marks on his face. They are simply jealous of your ability. You will one day become the strongest human in the world. Me? The strongest. Just because you will be strong does not mean your life will be easy. The path you follow will be one of great torment and trial. You must face all of these hardships head-on. Only then will you truly fulfill your destiny. Krillin sat in silence, unable to think of anything to say about all he had heard. The head monk smiled. For what good I can do, let me give you a little advice. It will make sense much further down your path. Energy is all around us, guiding us. Yes. Krillin nodded. The energy that flows through us and around us. It flows in a cycle. Life is nothing more than a circle. If you can understand this cycle, it will become your greatest weapon. The circle of ki. Krillin nodded again, even though none of what the monk was saying made any sense. Krillin came out of his meditation. Several days later, I left the temple, searching for the great master Rashi. I wonder if that monk knew all that was to happen. Krillin sat up, his mind still lingering on the monk's words. Circle of ki, huh? Krillin raised his hand over his head with his palm outstretched. He gathered all of his ki into a ball and held it there. Concentrating, he managed to push the ball flat, forming a circled disk of energy. It began spinning rapidly, and most of the energy made its way to the outside edge of the disk of destruction. It began spinning faster, the energy lending its weight to the edge. Krillin could almost hear the disk cutting the very air. Was this what he meant? A literal circle of ki? Well, either way, that is what I will call it. Kienzan! He shouted as he let the disk go. The disk flew off, making a sound similar to a buzzsaw as it cut its path through the air. Realizing it a second too late, Krillin sensed a smaller energy making its way through the hall. Yamcha came into view, walking directly into the path of the disk. Yamcha! Duck! Krillin screamed. Yamcha turned, completely unaware of the danger. What the? Yamcha ducked, the disk skimming his face, causing a scar to form where it sliced. As the disk instantly cauterized the wound, Yamcha fell to the floor, clutching his face. Krillin ran to his friend, horrified at what had happened. Yamcha, are you okay? Yamcha sat up with a weak grin. What the hell was that, Krillin? Krillin gave a lopsided smile. It was a new attack. Do you like it? I would have liked it a whole lot better from a distance. Did it leave a mark? Krillin nodded. Yeah, right under your eye. Sorry about that. Yamcha hung his head. Oh well, it'll be a great reminder not to ever get you angry. Yamcha stood up, rubbing his hand gently over his new scar. Him and Krillin began walking. Krillin looked up at his friend. I've been meaning to ask you, what's been going on with you and Bulma? Yamcha's smile turned into a scowl. I'd rather deal with your new attack, honestly. Krillin grinned sheepishly. Well, maybe it would help you out to talk about it? Well, okay, but it's a long story. Yamcha and Krillin wandered into the kitchen and took a seat. Yamcha absent-mindedly reached out and grabbed a fruit that resembled an apple. Krillin put his head on his arms, a feeling of drowsiness setting in. Yamcha took a bite of his apple-esque fruit and sighed. He suddenly didn't feel that hungry. He put down the fruit and cracked his knuckles. Man! Krillin looked at his friend. What's wrong, Yamcha? Well, I suppose the big thing is the fact that I'm going off into outer space to risk my life, and my girlfriend doesn't even care. At least you have a girlfriend, Krillin mumbled. He realized this wouldn't help his friend and sighed. Time to play marriage counselor. Again. Well, what happened this time? Bulma gets angry easily and all. But you probably did something to set her off. Yamcha groaned. Well, maybe, but it wasn't my fault, man, I swear. Krillin rolled his eyes. But the thing is, it's never your fault, according to you. But it really isn't my fault. It all started when I joined the baseball team. Yamcha grinned as he looked at himself in the mirror. His brand new Titan's uniform looked really awesome on him. After several minutes of self-admiration, he managed to pull himself away from the mirror. Poir laughed as he walked into the living room. You are so full of yourself, Yamcha. You've been in there for a while. Yamcha smiled. Now, Poir. No need to be jealous. A good piece of art deserves to be looked at. Poir transformed into a deformed-looking version of Yamcha. She pretended to be ogling herself in the mirror. Oh, look at me. I'm Yamcha, and I'm so gorgeous, she mimicked in a sing-song voice. Yamcha hung his head and groaned. Poir turned back into her little cat form. Well, that's what you sound like. Yamcha shook his head. Listen, we don't have any more time. If I don't hurry, I'll be late for my first game. Yamcha walked outside and threw a capsule into the ground. A dust cloud exploded out with a loud pow. The dust settled, revealing a beat-up aircar. Yamcha groaned. I can't believe I have to go to my first game in this piece of junk. Poir laughed. Yamcha gave his feline companion a dirty glare. But don't worry, after I get my first paycheck, all that is gonna change. No more crummy house, no more crummy cars, no more crummy life, he exclaimed as he jumped in. I liked our crummy life, Poir muttered to herself as she got in. This was it. Life or death, victory or defeat. Yamcha could feel his ki gathering involuntarily into his hand. Everyone was counting on him. He concentrated, closing his eyes, trying to feel his opponent out. This was his last chance. He felt the ki rise up to its max, he took a deep breath, and he launched the ball. The Titans win. The Titans win. The Titans win their first World Series. Yamcha had been hoisted on to the backs of his fellow teammates. He had managed to throw the game-winning pitch at his first game, and it had won them the series. The night was his. Everything was forgotten as they took him off to celebrate their win. Unfortunately, Yamcha was carried off so fast he left behind Bulma, his girlfriend. Bulma fumed. I am the pearl of society. I am rich, I am beautiful, and I am a genius. I do not get left behind. She turned a shade of red at her boyfriend's indignation and marched off after them, determined to tell him off for good. Krillin winced. You left her at the game for a party? I bet she wasn't too happy. Yamcha nodded in agreement. No kidding. I just got caught up in the moment, and they grabbed me, and before I even realized it, we were there. I didn't even have a say in the matter. Well, did you explain it to her? Yamcha gave Krillin an incredulous look. What, to Bulma? Krillin nodded. Good point. Yamcha put his head into his hands and sighed. But then I found myself thinking, like she always gets all the attention. The world loves her, and I'm always just her stupid karate bum boyfriend. That was my first night to matter, where I wasn't just someone in the background, you know. I had won something on my own. I was proud. And then she came and crushed it, just because she wasn't the center of attention for once. Krillin shrugged. Maybe, but you knew how she was before you signed up for it, man. I guess. But, I don't know. Even knowing how she is, and even with her making me miserable, I don't care. There are times where she makes me happy, and no matter how infrequent those times are, they always seem to outweigh all the times she makes me miserable. Krillin nodded, even though it made no sense to him at all. If this is what love is all about, maybe I'm better off staying single. Yamcha stood up and cracked his neck. Thanks for listening, Krillin, but I think I just need a little time to myself. sort my thoughts out, and stuff. Krillin smiled. I know how that feels. That's cool. I could use a rest anyhow. I'll see you later, Yamcha. Krillin gave a nod as he headed off towards the dormitories. Yamcha began walking absent-mindedly, with no particular goal in mind. I'm in outer space. I'm going off to fight an evil warlord who could kill me with a glance. My girlfriend hates me. My best friend is a little floating cat. Man, wouldn't Mom be proud? Yamcha shook his head. I'm going to die, and this is all I have. I don't even know why I came. I guess I came because Goku needed our help. Because Tien and Krillin were going. I honestly don't know why I came, and I'm going to die for it. I'm the weak link to this group. There isn't anyone on this ship who couldn't wreck me in a fight. Not only am I going to die fighting this Frieza, but I bet I'll be the first one to go. But I guess that's how it always was. Even back when we were young. In every tournament I lost in the first round. I didn't even get to fight King Piccolo because Tien had snapped my leg. I've always been so powerful, but in reality, I've never amounted to anything. I wish I could stop. I wish I didn't have to be in this mess. But if I stop training, I'll become even weaker. I won't even be able to fight in tournaments. I won't even be able to help when the world is in danger. I guess I don't have a choice. If I have keep training, I'll put my heart into it. I don't want to die. I don't want to be the weakest fighter. Maybe if I try real hard, I can amount to something. Yamcha lifted his head, full of a new determination. He set off for the gravity room Krillin had told him about earlier. I'll help stop this Frieza guy. He walked up to the gravity room door. It was closed, and a little light was beeping, showing that someone was already in the room. Yamcha peeked in through the little window and saw Goku, zipping around the room at speeds he could barely see. And that's with enhanced gravity? Man, I guess I'll have to start on my own. Once he's done, I'll go in and start catching up. Yamcha turned around and walked into Raditz. Raditz had been walking with Piccolo towards the gravity chamber. Piccolo noticed the occupied light and frowned. Who's in the machine, human? Yamcha growled. My name is Yamcha, and Goku is in there. Raditz smiled. Excellent. Perhaps he would care to join us in a session. Piccolo turned to Raditz with a low snarl. I want nothing to do with that idiot. We will wait for him to finish. Raditz walked into the room. Without looking back, he called to Piccolo. Do you want to get stronger or not? Piccolo cursed Raditz softly and shook his head as he reluctantly stepped into the chamber. His entire life had been about growing stronger. Every moment a chance for more power. Another day, another challenge. The idea of gaining power thrilled him. This gravity thingy is giving me a better workout than even Kami's training. The machine had been set at 4 times Earth's normal gravity, and Goku felt as if he weighed 800 pounds. Goku made his way to the console and began pressing buttons like his brother had shown him. The walls of the chamber emitted a faint yellow glow, and there was a slight humming sound. Raditz had explained to Goku that the walls could be set to reflect ki as opposed to absorbing it. This made for a very dangerous and effective training exercise. Goku shot off a small ball of energy at the wall, which bounced off and shot back at him with renewed speed. Goku dodged to the left, the sphere almost nicking his cheek as it whizzed by. It ricocheted off the back wall and picked up even more speed. The energy's building speed, coupled with the intense gravity, made this training exercise dangerous very quickly. But this isn't enough. Goku threw out a second blast, and now had 2 projectiles to worry about. Eventually the pressure became too much, and one of the balls caught Goku in the chest, throwing him backwards into the other ball that had come up behind him. The blasts hit him from either side, sapping all of his strength. He dropped to the floor, unable to pull himself up. Suddenly a hand reached out and pulled him up. Goku shakily got to his feet. Raditz gave him a smirk. 4 times gravity? Feeling ambitious, are we, Kakarot? Goku shook his head. It wasn't too bad. I just didn't know when to stop. Piccolo walked in with a look of disgust. As is often the case with you. All that strength with no brain to guide it. Goku gave Piccolo a nasty look. Hey, who won the last tournament? Huh. Piccolo spat at the ground. That was 5 years ago. If you think you would be able to defeat me again, you are sorely mistaken. Goku and Piccolo both dashed at each other, their forearms clashing as they attempted to strike. Goku flipped backwards, but Piccolo was already on him with a powerful elbow strike. All of the air was knocked out of Goku's lungs, and as he attempted to draw in breath, Piccolo landed a knee into his stomach. Goku fell over, clutching at his stomach. Piccolo went to charge up an energy attack, when Goku flew up at surprising speed, headbutting Piccolo up into his chin. Piccolo was lifted into the air, and as he attempted to stop himself, Goku jumped up with an uppercut that Piccolo managed to dodge. The two began angrily throwing punches at each other in super speed, neither gaining any ground. Raditz looked to his scouter to ascertain their power levels. Kakarot is at 200 and the green one is at 197. At 4 times gravity? That's amazing. How did they power up so quickly? Krillin had heard the commotion and came up behind the large Saiyan. Well, that's Goku for you. His power always seems to increase at an incredible rate. Plus, Piccolo is his arch-enemy. Of course, he would max out while fighting Piccolo. Raditz nodded, but he hadn't seen anything yet. Goku jumped back and threw off his shirt. Suddenly, his power rating jumped up another 50 points. Piccolo's cape came off, and he raises 45 points as well. Raditz gave Krillin a look of bewilderment. How do you explain that? Krillin shook his head. Those two morons have been wearing weighted clothing this whole time. Goku's shirt alone weighs about 100 pounds. You mean they have been fighting while carrying around that weight while fighting in 4 times gravity? Krillin nodded. That's why their power skyrockets. Their bodies get used to carrying around so much weight. At this point, Goku had dodged one of Piccolo's swings and shot off an energy bullet. Piccolo smacked it back at him and Goku dodged. The attack bounced off of the wall and came back at the two combatants. They both managed to avoid the shot while neither one gave any ground and continued to attack one another. Raditz and Krillin watched in awe at the ferocity of the two fighters. Raditz gave Krillin a doubtful stare. You don't think we should stop them, do you? Krillin shook his head. It's probably best if we just let them get it out. They aren't going to kill each other, and it'll make them both stronger, so it probably won't hurt. They continued to watch as Earth's 2 greatest warriors fought with all their might, managing to dodge each other's attacks while also dodging the random energy attacks still speeding around the room. Eventually, Piccolo's knee came up into Goku's ribs as Goku's fist went into Piccolo's face, and they both knocked each other out. Raditz and Krillin watched dumbfounded as the two fell to the ground. There was a moment of silence, when the randomly bouncing energy blast smashed into Raditz's face. The blast didn't even faze him, and he didn't so much as blink. He turned to Krillin. We should probably get these two back to their rooms, huh? Goku screamed as he sat up in a sweat. Where am I? His surroundings had a hazy look to them, and Goku was hard-pressed to notice any details. He stood up and walked out of the room. Krillin? Yamcha? Where are you guys? Goku wandered around, wondering what had happened to his friends. He walked into a doorway, and as soon as he entered, the door slammed shut behind him. He turned around and pounded on the door, but nothing happened. All of the lights went out, and Goku found himself scared for the first time since he had found his dead grandfather. Krillin, where are you guys? I can't sense any ki anywhere. What's going on? Goku stumbled around in the darkness, when suddenly 2 enormous kisses lit up ahead of him. The sounds of a battle were also present. Further ahead in the darkness, Goku heard someone screaming. Frieza! A man who looked very similar to Goku was flying at an incredible speed, taking out hundreds of warriors as he flew on. His path led him to a large spaceship. Frieza, get out here! A strange white creature emerged from the ship with an amused look on his face. What can I do for you, Bardock? We quit. We won't take part in your carnage any longer. The one called Frieza laughed. You quit? You cannot quit. Do you know what I do to people who quit? Bardock hung his head. It doesn't matter. Anything is better than destroying people. You have forced us to destroy entire races. Our sins cannot be forgiven, and neither can yours. Bardock began charging energy into his palm. A parting gift for you, Frieza, from every planet you've destroyed. Frieza laughed as the energy attack bounced harmlessly off of him. He began to charge a death ball, all the while hysterical laughing. Bardock screamed, dashing at the small tyrant. He landed a powered-up punch directly on Frieza's face, but the small changeling didn't even flinch. In a blind rage, Bardock began throwing hit after hit into Frieza's face. Frieza continued laughing until his death ball was completely charged. He then backhanded Bardock, sending him sprawling backwards towards planet Vegeta. Then allow me to give you all your pensions. My sins are all on your heads, and now you can all line up for judgment. Bardock looked up with a bloody face, not seeming to be watching his impending doom. It looked as though he were watching something that was going on in his head. Suddenly, he began laughing almost as maniacally as Frieza had been. You can kill us all, Frieza, but you will die. You will be killed by my sons. Bardock continued to laugh as the death ball came flying at him and his planet. Goku screamed, pulling himself out of his trance. "No!" He jumped in front of the ball and tried to catch it with his hands. The ball went right through him, sending a harsh chill throughout his body. He turned and watched as the ball ripped through Bardock and hurtled towards planet Vegeta. The energy attack crashed into the planet, immediately vaporizing it. Goku felt millions of key signatures instantly vanish. He turned back toward Frieza in anger. Frieza seemed to notice him for the first time. "And what do you think you can do, monkey?" Goku rushed at Frieza in a mirror image of Bardock's attack. He landed a kick into the side of Frieza's head, but the attack didn't even seem to affect the tyrant. Frieza began to laugh harder than ever, and just as he swung his fist in a counterattack, Goku woke up with a start. Krillin gave him a lopsided look. "Everything all right, bro?" Goku sat up, breathing heavily. I'm fine, Krillin. I just had a strange dream." Krillin nodded. "Well, okay. I just came here to tell you that we were going to be arriving at that Frieza planet soon." Goku took the information wordlessly. He got up and put back on his weighted clothes. "Okay, I wonder what this prince is going to be like." Vegeta finished his daily training regimen and stepped out of the gravity chamber. There was sweat forming on his brow, the only sign of his brutal workout at 25 times gravity. Even his second in command, Nappa, couldn't step in with him. At first, it had been nearly impossible to stand in there for the prince. Now it was at the point where, with some strenuous effort, he could perform basic punch and kicking drills in the intense gravity. Nappa was waiting for him at the end of the hall. "I see you finished your training, Vegeta," he said with a small bow. Vegeta barely gave him a nod as he walked by him. "Has Raditz returned with Kakarot yet?" Nappa shook his head. "Not yet. We received a transmission from his ship stating he will be here in an hour, tops." Vegeta nodded to himself as he walked into his chambers, closing the door in Nappa's face. His rooms were barely furnished, with nothing more than a cot on one side of the room, and a small wardrobe consisting of 2 spare sets of armor and 1 formal outfit for meetings with Frieza. "One day soon, I will no longer be forced to bow down to that disgusting thing. He destroyed my home planet, he killed my people, and now he uses me like a puppet. Soon Frieza will pay." Vegeta lay on the ground and began his cooling down exercises, starting with finger push-ups. His mind began to drift, and he found himself thinking of Kakarot. As a child, his power level was below average. I wonder if it was even worth our time to get him. I suppose it was for the best. If we hadn't, Raditz would have continued to complain. And the more Saiyans we have, the better. We will avenge our race. The intercom built into the wall interrupted his thoughts. Nappa's voice came in loud and clear. "Vegeta, Raditz has returned. He's coming into dock number 3. Vegeta stood up and smirked. "Very well. I will be down in a moment. Time to see if we wasted our time or not." Earth's heroes stepped off the ship and stared at the landing dock in awe. Every square inch of the metal facility was covered with strange panels and buttons. Krillin gave a low whistle. "Man, look at all this technology. Bulma would have a fit if she saw all this stuff." Raditz motioned for the Earthlings to follow him. "We cannot keep Prince Vegeta waiting." They emerged from the landing dock and were met by Nappa. The Saiyan towered over them, and his width could easily engulf several of the Earthlings. They all looked at the larger warrior in shock. Tien was the first to find his voice. This is Vegeta? Raditz laughed and shook his head. This is Vegeta's right-hand man, the former head of the Saiyan army, Nappa. Vegeta will be here in a moment. Piccolo allowed his eyes to reflect his surprise for a fraction of a second. If this monster is only the lackey, imagine what the prince will look like. Nappa gave Raditz a doubtful look. Who are all these guys? You bring back 5 guys and not one of them has a tail? Which one of these is Kakarot? Goku stepped forward and gave a slight bow. My name is Goku. Nappa cocked an eyebrow. You look like a Saiyan, but you don't act like any Saiyan I know. Where's your tail, Kakarot? Goku rubbed the back of his neck. Well, the Kami of Earth removed it. He said something about bringing the moon back. Nappa slapped his forehead. That means you can't transform anymore. What good is a Saiyan without a tail? Krillin's eyes shot wide open. Is the large ape a Saiyan power? Can they all do that on a full moon? Who are all these? Raditz? You better have a good explanation. Vegeta stepped out of a door from behind Nappa. At the sound of the voice, all of the Earthlings' visions of a monster that dwarfed Nappa came back. Somehow, what they saw before them did not size up. While the face fit the bill, his size left something to be desired. He seemed muscular and his ki felt large, but he looked like he barely made 5 feet. Even Krillin had to bite back a short joke. Vegeta scowled, bringing his hand to his scouter. Let's see. The midget clocks in at 299, 3 eyes hits 260, the green one is 350, and the scarred one is 199. Vegeta turned towards Goku. I am assuming you are Saiyan, as you are the strongest one here. You weigh in at 380. Now Vegeta turned to Raditz. This lot is pathetic. What were you thinking bringing them here? I asked only for Kakarot. Tien was boiling at this point. Without thinking, he charged at Vegeta. Piccolo must have had the same idea as he followed suit. Vegeta smirked as the 2 warriors flew at him. He flicked his wrist, and Tien and Piccolo were swept away, both crashing into a wall. Yamcha gulped. Vegeta laughed. Well, Raditz, you better make this good. Raditz coughed nervously. Well, Lord, their levels may seem low, but they more than make up for it with their fighting prowess. With their minuscule levels, these 3 managed to defeat me. And this one. At this point he pointed to Piccolo, who was having trouble pulling himself out of the wall. The green one here managed to have me on the defensive on his own. With the proper training, I believe these Earthlings could prove to be a serious asset to our cause. Vegeta scoffed. I refuse to let these simpletons slow down my training. They are your responsibility until they can hold their own. You had better be right about them, Raditz. If they become a hindrance, I will dispose of them myself. Without another word, Vegeta turned around and walked away in disgust. Nappa shook his head and followed suit. Tien finally managed to stand up and shook his head. What power? Why would he need any help? Raditz shook his head. His power level reaches 10,000. Tien's eyes opened wide. No wonder. All these years of training and I can't break 300. Amazing. Raditz sighed. Don't get too happy. Frieza's power dwarfs his in comparison. He may seem collected, but inside he is very worried. We all have to train very hard over the next several months if we want to be able to even stand up to Frieza. Our work is cut out for us. Goku had been unusually silent during this entire exchange. That prince is so strong. His strong sense of competition flared up. He was excited. Now he had a goal. Krillin was exhausted. Not only was he training in 40 times gravity, but having picked the small straw, he had been paired up with the Brute Saiyan Nappa as his sparring partner. While it certainly kept him on his toes, Nappa was very unsportsmanlike. While his sparring with Tien or Goku would end with a grin and one helping the other up, matches with Nappa usually ended with Krillin laying on the ground and Nappa walking away in disgust. Krillin was determined to change things around this time, however. As usual, Nappa opened up with a charging punch. Krillin shook his head. He may be strong, but man, is he predictable. Krillin leapt over the incoming Saiyan's head and charged up a Kamehameha. Nappa turned around just in time to get the blast directly in the face. Ah, you little runt. You're gonna wish you never did that. Nappa dashed forward a little quicker than Krillin had anticipated, and landed a right cross on Krillin's jaw. The little monk managed to recover quickly enough and landed on his feet. He smiled as he pulled his hands back behind his hips and began building his ki. Nappa rolled his eyes. What kind of trick are you pulling this time, midget? Whatever it is, it won't work. Krillin smirked and threw both of his hands forward, releasing two large but slow energy blasts. Nappa shook his head and jumped over them. I hope you were joking. There was no way you were gonna get me with. Krillin had silently directed both blasts to spin around, having one smash into the back of Nappa's knee, bringing the larger fighter to his knees. The other blast slammed into the base of Nappa's neck. His face met the ground swiftly, and it took him several seconds to get up. When he stood up, his face no longer had a smile on it. Before Krillin could realize what was happening, Nappa had clotheslined him, putting him into the floor. The large Saiyan brought his boot down onto Krillin's abdomen, crushing the breath out of him. You give up? Ya, you damn shrimp. Krillin couldn't even squeeze out a reply as the boot pushed further into his stomach. He put his hands on the boot and began trying to lift his opponent off of him. Nappa laughed. You must be delusional. There's no way you can. Nappa was cut off as Krillin screamed out, his aura flaring as he lifted the Saiyan into the air. Nappa recovered his senses just in time to land a kick with his other foot into Krillin's head. Nappa laughed as Krillin crashed into the floor. You've gotten good, but you're no match for me. Krillin stood up shakily, bruises forming on his head and arms. It would be so easy just to nail him with a Kienzan. But I can't, wouldn't be right. Besides, I bet Vegeta would just love that. Krillin gritted his teeth and dashed forward. Nappa swung a punch, but as his fist should have hit the small monk, he vanished. Nappa turned around just in time to meet a kick to his face. Krillin flipped backwards and landed neatly. Now Nappa was getting angry. I've had enough of this fight. Time to finish you off, punk. Nappa flipped up two of his fingers in a quick gesture, and Krillin felt the air around him heat up. Nappa's signature attack somehow caused all of the air surrounding an opponent to combust. Krillin smiled. If he's using this technique on me, that means I'm really giving him trouble. The explosion propelled Krillin, smashing him into the side of the floor. Nappa advanced on the smaller fighter, a big grin on his face. So, you survived that too, huh, Earthling? I'm actually impressed. But let's see how you handle my attacks now. You're way too weak to dodge anything. Right as Nappa got close enough, Krillin threw his hands to his face and screamed out, Teoken! A fierce light flooded the room, and Nappa began to clutch at his eyes. I can't see. What did you do? The only sounds he heard, however, was a brief scuffle and the sound of a door slamming. As he regained his eyesight, he saw that his opponent had escaped the gravity chamber. You little coward. When I get out there, I'm gonna… Nappa stopped as he felt something in the pit of his stomach. Krillin had a big grin on his face and waved. Suddenly, the gravity doubled, pinning Nappa to the ground. I can't move. Krillin laughed from outside of the chamber. Do you give up? To you? Never. Krillin shrugged. Okay, I'll come ask again in an hour. Wait. Nappa yelled at Krillin's retreating form. Krillin chuckled as he walked off. I might catch a bad beating later, but seeing his face all pissed like that was worth it. During their training, the Saiyans had realized that the Earth's heroes could tell a person's power level and location without the aid of a scouter. Raditz had picked up the skill rather quickly, and once Vegeta had caught wind of it, he had stayed up for a week until he had mastered it. Nappa still hadn't figured out the skill yet. Vegeta constantly berated his second-in-command, but Nappa didn't have the patience to grasp the ability. Elsewhere in the universe, the small tyrant known as Frieza sat upon his throne, reading a sheet of paper. Vegeta had been unusually absent for almost a year. Naturally becoming a little suspicious, Frieza had enlisted a spy to check up on his little pet. The results didn't anger him as much as he thought they would. Instead, he found himself slightly amused. Perhaps Vegeta will give me the entertainment that his father failed to deliver. Frieza turned as one of his top aides burst into the throne room. Frieza turned his head to one side and looked at his kneeling aide. What is the meaning of this outburst? There was a tremble in the aide's voice as he spoke. If you recall, sire, I had been dispatched to the planet Namek. Yes, what of it? We were doing fine, and suddenly a Namek appeared that was much more powerful than any of us. He defeated us all, and only I managed to escape. Frieza gave his subordinate a disapproving frown. And this warrants coming in my chamber unannounced? You were probably better off with the Namek. But that's not all, sire. At this point, the aide pulled out a large golden orb with 2 stars inside of it. This is a Dragon Ball, sire. The Nameks say that if you gather all 7, you can have any wish you desire. Now Frieza's eyes lit up. Any wish? The other 6 balls are on Namek. I thought this news might please you, Lord. Frieza rubbed his chin and smiled. Indeed it has. I believe I will take a trip to Namek myself. The aide stood up, relief flooding over his face. Frieza smiled and nonchalantly threw a small blast of energy at his aide. There was a small explosion, and the Dragon Ball fell to the floor. Frieza smiled and floated over to the ball, admiring himself in the reflection. Yes, maybe this is the excitement I crave. Tien and Yamcha stepped out of the gravity chamber, having just completed their workout. Yamcha hung his head as they walked out. Try as he might, he couldn't seem to beat Tien. They both had broken through walls that they had never even conceived, but Yamcha was still behind. I'm starving. Wanna get something to eat? Yamcha snapped out of his thoughts. Yeah, I guess we could do that. They walked into the kitchen chambers and found everyone gathered around. Tien lifted an eyebrow. What's going on? Goku turned to them and motioned for them to sit. Frieza is on the move. We have to figure out what we're gonna do. Tien sat down and frowned. Why now? Raditz' face was grim. We were just getting to that. He's on his way to Namek. Piccolo snapped out of his meditation. What? My home planet? Vegeta growled. He must be after the Dragon Balls. That's the only explanation I could think of. He never goes to planets personally, unless there is a specific reason. Krillin scratched the back of his neck. If he basically owns the universe, what would he need the Dragon Balls for? There was a few seconds of silence, and then Vegeta quietly spoke up. Immortality. What? Vegeta shook his head. He wants immortality. I must stop him. Yamcha laughed nervously. Do you think we're ready? Nappa turned on his scouter. Well, I knew I had improved, but this is a bit much. Krillin rolled his eyes. Well, what's your level? Nappa grinned. I'm at 20,000. Yamcha's jaw dropped. He went from 30,000 to 20,000 in a year. Holy hell. Tien stood up, both anxious and excited to see how his training had paid off. Nappa hit a button and whistled. Well, I suppose even humans can get decent. 3 Eyes is at 17,000. Tien looked happy for a moment, but it quickly was replaced with a look of self-reproach. We all know that isn't good enough. The rest of the fighters all measured up after that. Krillin had hit 18,000, Raditz and Piccolo were both at 19,000, and Yamcha was at 15,000. Vegeta took the scouter at that point and checked himself. He smirked as the number came up. 25,000. More than you maggots can handle. His smirk faded away as he thought of his goal. But not enough to stop Frieza. Even together, we may be no match for him. What about me? Vegeta turned to Goku. What about you? Well, you never checked my number. I want to know how strong I am. Vegeta sighed. What's the use? You aren't going to be stronger than me, and even if you were, Frieza is still in a much different league than us. The nerve! Acting like you matter. Vegeta's voice trailed off as a number came up. He clicked a button several times. There must be something wrong with this thing. Nappa gave Vegeta a lopsided look. What's wrong, Vegeta? Yeah. Come on. I want to know what my power level is. Vegeta finally stopped fiddling with his machine and gave Goku a wide-eyed stare. This infernal machine says you and I are the same level. but you were nothing more than an ant when you arrived. How could such a gross difference be crossed so quickly? Goku shrugged and sat back down. So now what? Vegeta crossed his arms and leaned back against the wall. It's obvious, isn't it, Kakarot? Goku gave Vegeta a blank stare. Vegeta growled. Fool, we have no choice. While we don't have much of a chance now, once Frieza is immortal, it will be downright impossible to defeat him. Now is the only chance we have. I'm setting a course for Namek. And Kakarot, you come with me. Superiority derives from more than just power, and I shall prove it to you. Goku got up, scratched the back of his neck and shrugged as he followed the angered prince. The remaining fighters all looked at each other, unsure as to what their fate would be. Meanwhile, on Earth, Goku's son was going through his own training. A year had passed and it showed. Gohan was a bit taller, but his boyish frame was filling out, muscles having been built in most points of his body. His arms and legs were much thicker, for one thing. His face now had a trace of confidence in it. For a second, he thought he could feel his father many worlds away. Very faint but very strong. Gohan, where is your head? You can't afford to lose your concentration in battle. Yajirobe sighed. Why do you have to ask him where his head is? Aren't you a psychic? Chaozu gave Yajirobe a stern glare. Yes, I'm a psychic. But we have rules, you know. We don't just force our way in. We have to have permission to go into someone's head. Don't see the fun in that. Yajirobe muttered as he sat down and pulled out an ear of corn. Chaozu groaned. Whatever. Come on, Gohan. Let's go at it again. Gohan and Chaozu both seemed to disappear, only visible for the split second where they clashed. While they were invisible to the naked eye, Yajirobe's eyes darted back and forth, keeping up with the spar. They both seemed to be about equal, when suddenly Gohan's eyes narrowed. He dodged Chaozu's kick and spun around with a punch into his mentor's face. Chaozu fell to the ground, slamming into the floor, unconscious from the one blow. Gohan looked at his fist in wonder as Yajirobe ran towards the fallen emperor. Chaozu was fed a senzu, and he sat up groggily. Nice shot, Gohan. Now, let's work on the Dadanpa. While this went on, in outer space, two ships both raced for the planet Namek. Vegeta snorted as he dropped into his fighting stance. Look at this clown. He thinks that just because he reached my level of power he is superior. Even his stance is feeble. 60 times gravity, Kakarot. Think you can handle it? Goku stretched out his legs and smiled. I think I'll be okay. Are you? Vegeta growled. I am a Saiyan prince. I fought many opponents, entire worlds, and yet this fool has the gall to question whether or not I will be okay. You may have reached my level of strength, but don't get cocky. I have destroyed planets and I have the killer instinct. Your skill can't compare to mine. Vegeta dashed forward, swinging down his fists in a double axe handle smash. Goku rolled to the side and threw a small energy attack. His opponent smirked as he smacked it back, sending the light attack back into the sender's face. The prince used the distraction to snap kick Goku in the jaw. Earth's hero smashed into the wall, making a dent. Vegeta charged up ki into his fist and brought it into Goku's stomach before he could do anything. He grinned, noting his opening advantage in spite of his fellow Saiyans' earlier confidence. You see, Kakarot? You don't have the ability to beat me, equal strength or not. Goku unleashed a wave of ki from his entire body, thrusting Vegeta back a bit. He sped out of his hole and threw out several fast punches, each of which Vegeta easily dodged. He countered with a backhand into Goku's face. Vegeta laughed. You may be strong, but I am much faster. You won't be worth anything against Frieza's men if you are that slow. Goku's face became serious and Vegeta felt his ki rise a bit. Wow, he wasn't kidding about his skill. I have to go all out. They exchanged several punches at hyperspeed, none of which hit their mark. Goku's ki spiked, throwing Vegeta off guard as he cut through and landed a punch directly on his face. The Saiyan prince fell back more from shock than pain. He hit me? But how? He felt his anger rising. Enough! He threw both of his hands back and charged a ball of energy that was writhing erratically in his hands. Gallic Ho! The purple beam shot forward, violently catching Goku in the chest and sending him flying. Right before he crashed into the ground, Goku spun around in midair and landed on his feet. Looks like I have no choice. Do you mind if I take off some of my clothes? Vegeta raised an eyebrow. Is he serious? Are you that weak that even your clothes are too heavy? Well, if it makes you feel any better, fine. Thanks. Goku smiled as he began to remove his undershirt. Vegeta gave him an odd look. Is he actually struggling with that shirt? Goku's face contorted with effort as he got the clothing over his head. As the shirt came off, it smashed into the ground, causing a dent. Vegeta's eyes opened wide in shock. What the? Goku grinned. Those clothes were weighing me down. Now I'm much faster. How heavy was that shirt, Kakarot? His face betrayed the sense of surprise running through the prince's head. Goku rubbed his shoulder as he stretched out his arms. Oh, about 100 pounds. Vegeta's jaw dropped. We're in 60 times gravity. He managed to hit me while wearing 6,000 pounds. Goku began bouncing back and forth, his playful grin returning to his face. Oh yeah, that's much better. You ready for another round? There was a pained silence for several seconds. Finally, Vegeta shook his head. We're almost at Namek. We need to be fresh. Goku nodded with a barely concealed smile. Sure we do. A small energy blast hit the wall right next to his head. Vegeta growled and walked out of the room. Once he was sure Vegeta was out of earshot, he began hysterically laughing to himself. The Saiyan spaceship landed on the planet, and Krillin jumped out as the hatch opened. The planet before them was almost entirely green, with an abundance of plant life, grassy hills and plains, and even a green sky. The only thing that seemed to be missing was wildlife. It was a very welcome change for the monk. Finally, no more spaceships. Fresh air. Saiyans weren't known for their rosy scents. It felt nice to smell something other than sweat for a change. Vegeta stepped out of the ship and sighed. Fool! Stop messing around. Frieza and his men are already here. Krillin stopped mid-jump, hovering in the air. Really? He closed his eyes and concentrated. His eyes shot open. Holy crap! There's some strong guys on this planet. His eyes shut again and he felt out the enemy. Vegeta? What? Krillin's voice wavered. One of them is... It's different. It's strong enough on its own. But I can feel something else. Something, I don't know, kind of like inside it. Like it's a mask. And there's something worse further down. Vegeta nodded, his face grim. It's Frieza. There's rumors among his top men that he has the ability to transform, and that his power is even more horrible than before. Krillin slowly dropped to the floor, as did his mood. But his power is already too much. You mean there's more? Hence why we need to avoid him at all costs. We need to get rid of his men and secure the Dragon Balls first. Vegeta turned to Nappa. We need to tell which power is which. He pointed towards the right. There is a large power that way. Who is it? Nappa consulted his scouter. 20,000. That's QE. And to the left? 22,000. Gotta be Dodoria. Vegeta turned around. There's another one behind us. 24,000. Isn't that Zarbin's level? Vegeta nodded. If we play our cards right, we may be able to pull this off before Frieza knows what happened. Kakarot, I want you to... Vegeta stopped. They all stopped. Each of them felt hundreds of smaller key readings die out to their left. The feeling left a slight nausea in their hearts. Everyone's faces drained, except for Vegeta. He simply sighed. It's begun. We may be too late. He might have the Dragon Balls already. Nappa looked at them all in confusion. What's wrong? What's going on? Yamcha shook his head, sweat forming on his brow. They're being slaughtered. And we're next. We're gonna be killed. Yamcha tried to shake off the panic attack, but his fear of death was overwhelming him. The brutal slaughter that had been claiming so many innocent lives kept so much of the warriors' attentions. None of them noticed Piccolo's rage boiling over. I may not have been born here, but these are my people. I'll kill these bastards. His ki spiked as he shot off into the air, heading towards the site of the carnage. You fool! Vegeta growled. That damn Namek is going to ruin everything. Raditz shook his head. What's done is done. What should we do? We'll have to leave that idiot to his own devices. Hopefully he will defeat Dodoria. Nappa, take Raditz and try to ambush Kiwi. Kakarot, you and I will take out Zarbon as quietly as possible. We need to work quickly, and hope Frieza doesn't notice until it's too late. Tien cleared his throat. And what about us? Is he purposely ignoring us? I can't wait to prove this arrogant bastard wrong. Vegeta snorted. Like I would trust a non-Saiyan to fight? You and the other 2 dogs can try to capture 1 or 2 of the Dragon Balls. Frieza can't become immortal if he doesn't have all 7. Correct. Yamcha nodded. The longer we stay out of the battle, the better. We are in way over our heads. Come on, guys. He went to take off and then stopped. Hey, how are we supposed to find Dragon Balls without a radar? Raditz pulled out a scouter and threw it to him. The Dragon Balls give off a strange energy signal. You can pick it up with this. Yamcha put on the scouter and grinned. Awesome. Stay safe, everyone. Krillin, Yamcha and Tien flew off in search of the Dragon Balls. Tien still wasn't happy about playing fetch for the Saiyans, but he kept his cool. After all, we may as well let the Saiyans deal with their own problems. Vegeta turned to Nappa with a scowl. You 2 know what to do. Now get moving. Nappa and Raditz nodded silently and took off after Kiwi. Vegeta wordlessly turned around, his power building and wrapping around him. He let the energy pick him up, sending up dust in Goku's face. He blasted off, leaving Goku coughing. Hey Vegeta, wait up! Goku's ki flared up as he flew off, trying to catch up with the Saiyan Prince. These opponents feel so strong. I'm a little nervous, but I also feel excited. I wonder what this Frieza looks like. We'll never tell you, scum. A purple fist flew through the air, going clean through the green skull of a Namekian warrior. The great purple creature shook his head. These foolish people should just come to the realization that resisting Lord Frieza is a waste. Now, let's just see where they have the Dragon Ball hidden. Around him lay the crushed remains of Namekian huts. The roofs were caved in, and rubble and blood were strewn across the once tranquil Namekian village. Dodoria consulted his scouter, numbers flashing by rapidly. One number seemed to jump out in him, and a look of shock and excitement crossed his face. 19,000? And it's coming right for me, good. I've been bored lately. Dodoria licked his lips in anticipation as he turned to face the oncoming stranger. None of the Nameks so far have exceeded 4,000. There is the extremely powerful one, but his number was 42,000. This can't be him. Where did this one come from? A powerful gray aura ripped through the sky and headed directly toward the alien. Without even stopping to find out who it was, Piccolo smashed his knee into the side of Dodoria's head. There was a sickening crunch as bone met bone. Dodoria skidded into the ground and knocked dust up all around him. For only 19,000, he certainly packs a punch. He slowly stood up and smiled. Well, so it is a Namek. I'm impressed. Piccolo floated several feet away, his arms crossed and his cape swaying in the breeze. Well, I'm not. You've murdered my people. Dodoria smiled. I was simply doing my job. I meant them no harm. They simply didn't give us the inform. The purple officer's sentence was cut off as Piccolo smashed his elbow into his temple, knocking him through several large outcroppings of rock. Piccolo was barely containing his rage. Anger was welling in him, and it was all he could do to keep it from bursting out in an explosion of ki. Meant them no harm. You slaughtered them. This was once a village, and now there is nothing but rubble. Inside his head, Piccolo felt a strange memory begin to surface. He was looking down at a young boy. The boy looked just like Goku. This isn't me. Is it? Everything besides the boy was fuzzy, small details escaping the eye. All that could be heard was the young fighter's screams. Now, King Piccolo, you're gonna pay for all the people you killed. Krillin, and the old man, and Kinto-un. I want them back. The small boy's rage boiled, and he charged a blue ball of energy in his hand. When is this? It seemed vaguely familiar, almost like a dream he had had long ago. The young Goku turned his Kamehameha to the ground, instead of at his opponent. I'll gamble everything on this one fist. The blast propelled Goku into the air at a violent speed, the air ripping out of the way in his wake. There was a loud roar, and then Goku was through the other side. Suddenly there was another voice. Sounds just like my own. But my son will destroy you, Goku. This is my birth. My father, he was no better than this purple thing here. And that is why I hate Goku? What have I been doing? As quickly as the memory came, an even fuzzier one replaced it. He was holding a crying human in his hand, his other fist poised to strike. What? I must have some of my sire's memories? This is his work. This is what he stood for. Bodies of humans were littered everywhere, the ground painted red with disaster. Smaller demons were gathered over some of the fallen humans. The sounds that came from that direction grated on Piccolo's ears, paining his very soul. He wanted to shut his eyes as the fist ripped through the fragile human. This is just like what happened to the Namex. That's the only reason Goku killed my father. And knowing this, he gave me a second chance. And what have I done with it? Piccolo snapped back to the here and now. Dodoria had managed to stand back up, but the grin had never left his face. Well, you are certainly full of spunk, aren't you? But I'm afraid you have no chance. The Namekian snorted. You're bluffing. Am I? Your power level peaks at 19,000. I can go to 22,000, maybe 23,000 on a good day. Piccolo spat at the ground. Those numbers aren't everything. I have to win, not only to avenge those Namex, but to pay for my past. The green-skinned warrior dashed forward, throwing out a flurry of punches. Dodoria began dodging, obviously much faster than the Namek. Piccolo's desperation became apparent as he began to lose ground. I can't touch this guy. I guess I have to go all out. He took to the air and ripped off his cape and turban. They smashed into the ground with a solid crunch, breaking a rock. Dodoria gave the Namek an estranged stare. What was that? Piccolo smirked. If I were you, I would check that scouter again, punk. Dodoria pushed a few buttons on his headpiece. What are you talking about? Dodoria stopped, slightly shocked, but not afraid. Wow, you've managed to raise your power level a whopping 700 points. Now you are almost at 20,000. Is this supposed to scare me? Piccolo allowed his aura to push out around him, the green-tinted sky being blocked out by a gray flare. You may still be stronger, but now I have the speed advantage. Dodoria's pink aura surrounded him as he flew up towards the Namek. How presumptuous! You honestly mean to believe that you could defeat me? Dodoria threw a punch, but it did not hit its mark. Piccolo disappeared and reappeared on the other side of him. He brought an energy-enhanced claw down into Dodoria's neck, slamming him back towards the ground. Is that as fast as you can go? I hope you can do better than that. Dodoria climbed out of his personal crater and growled. That does it. No more clowning around. His pink aura flared even stronger than before, and he pulled his hands back, letting his life force flow down into his hands. Now you die. He began rapidly shooting off blasts, a trail of pink destruction trailing the Namek as he maneuvered around the attacks. One of the balls managed to clip his shoulder, and he was forced to land. He clutched at his shoulder and tried to come up with a strategy. I'll need a powerful attack to leave some damage on this one. I was saving this for Goku, but I suppose it won't be necessary anymore. I'll just need a few seconds. Need to buy some time. Dodoria was closing in on him, a big grin on his bulbous face. You see? Your power is nothing compared to mine. Piccolo closed his eyes in defeat. Why are you killing these people? Dodoria laughed. Like I said, we wouldn't have killed them if they had cooperated. Why? What did you want them to do? He shrugged. I simply needed them to tell me where they kept the Dragon Ball. Each village keeps a Dragon Ball hidden, and they said they only give it to a hero. Very uncooperative. Just keep talking a little longer, you damn monster. The energy was almost built. He won't even know what hit him. A spark was building up between his two fingers. In one lightning-quick flash, he thrusted his fingers out, a spiral beam erupting from them faster than light. Dodoria's scouter beeped out a warning, and he quickly threw himself to the side. The beam missed its mark, but managed to take a small chunk out of his side. You'll pay for that. Clutching his side, he began to let his rage fill out his aura, the pink changing into a dark purple. Waves of pulsating ki began to eat away the ground from underneath him. Piccolo's eyes went wide. Damnation, he managed to murmur. All of the energy from the aura concentrated into his mouth and formed a beam. Piccolo turned and fled to the sky, hoping to avoid the attack. The blast ripped through the air, and before Piccolo could react, the blast caught up with him and a bright light engulfed him. There was a violent explosion, and Piccolo's unconscious body fell, smoking, when he crashed into a mountain, the large mass of rock his seeming grave. Dodoria checked his scouter. No reading. He shrugged. Oh well, certainly a lot more talk than fight. Although he did manage to leave his mark. That damn Namek. I need to regenerate all this lost tissue. Dodoria took to the sky, heading toward Frieza's ship where the medical bay was waiting. Zarbon flew through the air, the wind pressing his hair back as he headed for one of the Namek villages. I still don't understand what Lord Frieza needs these Dragon Balls for anyway. What could he possibly need that he doesn't have? Still, it doesn't do to question him. He was so busy looking down for a village that he nearly flew right into Vegeta, who was floating directly in his path with his arms crossed and a cocky smirk. Vegeta, what are you doing here? I heard you vanished. Vegeta snorted. Vanished? That's a way to put it. I've been training. Zarbon turned on his scouter and shook his head. You couldn't be that much stronger. You were only at 10,000 last I saw you. What? Vegeta nodded. Vanished indeed. Well, I'm back now, Zarbon. The number showing on Zarbon's scouter visibly shook him. But? 25,000? In a year? How did you manage it? That's none of your concern, lapdog. I'm here to destroy you. Zarbon shook his head. Now, don't get too cocky. You aren't that much more powerful than me. You, of all people, should know no victory is a certain victory. Vegeta's smirk hadn't left his face. Perhaps I alone could not stop you, but perhaps you should look behind you. Zarbon turned, and Goku was floating there, a smile on his face. Who? He's at 25,000 as well. Kakarot, you stay out of this. I'll handle him on my own. Goku gave Vegeta a concerned look. Are you sure? His power feels pretty strong. Vegeta snapped around. Don't you dare patronize me, Kakarot. I am your prince. You would do well to remember that. Now stay out. Vegeta's ki flared up around him as he shot off at Zarbon. I'll be damned if I allow Kakarot to show me up. I am his superior. Zarbon tried to move to the side, but Vegeta's rage was fueling him, and he brought his fist into the blue fighter's jaw. He tumbled back, barely stopping himself from crashing into the side of a mountain. Fear flashed in his eyes for a mere second, but it was more than enough to catch Vegeta's attention. A cruel smile lit up on his face. How does it feel, Zarbon? How does it feel to be inferior? Zarbon glared at Vegeta. Inferior? You have no idea what you are getting yourself into. Vegeta's grin widened as he slammed his fist into Zarbon's stomach. For years, you damn freaks have ridiculed the Saiyan race. You have made a mockery of me, the prince of the greatest warrior race in the universe. His rage was building with each word he spoke, and he emphasized his anger with another crushing blow that went further into Zarbon's abdomen. His eyes nearly came out of their sockets. A small trickle of blood dripped from his mouth, and a small smile crept onto his face. I warned you, Vegeta. Now I will show you just how inferior you stupid monkeys are. Vegeta was pushed back slightly as Zarbon's energy rose sharply. A light blue aura rose around him, and his body began to change. There was a sharp roar, and when Vegeta looked back up at Zarbon, his visage had changed from handsome to grotesque. There was much more mass on his body, and his energy had skyrocketed. What is this? Vegeta shook his head and put on his game face. So? You simply got ugly. Is this supposed to frighten me? Zarbon's deformed face smiled. No, Mere looks wouldn't scare you. You Saiyans are brutes, and all you would respond to would be force. My face won't frighten you, Vegeta, but perhaps this will. He dashed forward, his elbow driving into Vegeta's ribs, knocking the wind out of the off-guard prince. He crashed into the ground, sending up small rocks and dust. Zarbon pulled his hand up over his head and charged up a ball of energy extremely quick. Goodbye, sweet prince. The blue ball of energy rocketed down toward the ground, making a sound similar to silk ripping as it tore through the air. There was a slight blur right as the blast smashed into the earth. When the smoke cleared, there was nothing left. Zarbon's scouter beeped, and he detected two life forms behind him. He turned and saw Vegeta being held by Goku. Goku's playful look was gone, and replaced with one of stern reproachment. He was beaten. You didn't need to throw that energy, he stated calmly. Zarbon laughed. Ah, is the little monkey trying to defend his prince? He asked in a sing-song mocking voice. Vegeta stirred, drifting back into semi-consciousness. He looked at Goku, turned to the smoldering ground, and put two and two together. His fist shot out and smashed into Goku's jaw, causing Earth's hero to drop the half-awake prince. He tumbled, no energy available to stop his descent, and he smashed into the ground. He struggled to pull up his head and mutter, "Damn you, Kakarot," before his head fell to the ground. How dare he, to save me, as if I was some helpless wretch. I am not defenseless. How dare he steal my pride? How dare he? He thought as he wavered into unconsciousness. Above the conflicted prince, Goku glared at Zarbon. I've only met you for a few minutes, and I already don't like you. Vegeta might not be the nicest person, but you went too far. You're a monster. Zarbon pretended to be hurt. It's the face that gives it away, isn't it? Goku wordlessly dashed at the hideous fighter, bringing his knee into the abdomen. There was a sharp intake of air, but Zarbon recovered quickly, bringing his fist into Goku's chest. Goku fell backwards, clutching where he had been hit. His eyes narrowed for a second, and then he seemed to disappear. Zarbon's scouter beeped several times, and his fist lashed out at a seemingly random patch of air. The fist caught Goku, knocking him out of hyperspeed and sending him towards the ground. He's too fast. Goku cupped his hands at his side, preparing the signature move of the Kame Sennin style. Ka, mi, ha. Zarbon slammed into Goku with a flying kick, sending the young hero skidding across the ground. Zarbon went to press the attack, when his scouter beeped again. Gallic! Purple electricity writhed in Vegeta's hands, as he prepared his signature attack. Even Zarbon couldn't react quickly enough, but he still sped off, the ground crumbling beneath him as he attempted to stop Vegeta. Ho! The blast burst from Vegeta's hands, catching Zarbon full on the chest. He flipped backwards, but managed to flip midair and bring himself to a stop. Vegeta dropped to his knees, the last of his energy spent. Damn you, you bastard. A blue fist flew up, poised for the finishing strike. Time to put the monkeys to sleep. Zarbon chuckled as he brought the hand down, the appendage a mere blur. Right before he reached his target, his scouter went off. Frieza's voice rung out, stopping Zarbon in his tracks. Zarbon, you have defeated the monkeys? Zarbon nodded out of habit, even though his master couldn't see him. Yes, Lord. There were two of them, and they are both very defeated. I see. Which ones? Was one of them Vegeta? One is Vegeta, and the other one looks similar to Raditz. Similar? But it isn't him. Unless Raditz got a haircut. Interesting. Don't kill them, Zarbon. Bring them both to me. Yes, Lord. Damn. Frieza always ruins my fun. Zarbon reverted back to his smaller state and hefted the Saiyans onto his shoulders. Perhaps the master will still let me finish them off. I can't wait to see the look on Vegeta's face when he wakes up in Frieza's ship. Zarbon blasted off and headed back towards the ship where his master was waiting. Raditz and Nappa were zooming through the air, the Namekian landscape flying by under them. Nappa had a worried look on his face. Anything other than his trademark grimace was enough to catch Raditz's attention. Nappa slowed down, and his scouter began to beep. His eyes opened wide. Over 500,000. Frieza's over there. Raditz slowed down and gave his ally an estranged look. Yeah, and it would probably be best if we didn't let him find us, Nappa. Nappa nodded slowly, but he looked like he had something on his mind. Hey, Raditz? What's wrong? Nappa looked like he was having an inner conflict. I was just wondering, are you into this whole thing? Raditz lifted an eyebrow. Where is he going with this? Into what whole thing? He won't look me in the eyes. Well, this whole rebellion against Frieza. Do you agree with Vegeta? Agree with Vegeta? He is our prince. We don't have to agree. Nappa sighed. But Vegeta always talks about the pride of the Saiyan race. How can there be any pride in an extinct race? Huh. We're gonna die. We can't beat Frieza. This line of conversation was beginning to worry Raditz. We have to try, Nappa. Frieza destroyed our entire planet. What makes you think he would allow us to live much longer? Nappa looked extremely worried. He decided to try a different approach. If we follow Vegeta blindly, doesn't that make him the same as Frieza? Raditz's eyes narrowed. No, Vegeta is our prince. No, he is old enough. Vegeta is the king of the Saiyans. He is our king. Frieza is some pompous bastard who has enslaved us. The two aren't even close. Nappa sighed inwardly. I can't say I didn't try. It looks like I'll be the last surviving Saiyan after all. Out loud, he said, maybe you're right, let's go. Raditz nodded, and they sped off, kicking up a storm of dust in their wake. Koei sat on a random rock and sighed angrily. He had killed off a few stray Namekians, but he had yet to get any sort of lead on the remaining Dragon Balls. Master Frieza already has 5 of the Dragon Balls. I don't see why he's getting so edgy. If I don't come back with one of those damn orbs, I may as well not go back at all. He was cursing his luck when his scouter began beeping wildly. He jumped up. 2 high readings. They both are about 20,000. Could it be Dodoria and Zarbon? He looked up and saw 2 figures approaching him. That's not Dodoria. Who could it be? He squinted into the sky, the sun making it hard to see much of anything. As the figures got closer, he made out the large form of Nappa. His mouth turned upward into a grim smile. Ah, the Saiyans. The 2 Saiyans landed in front of the purple alien. Angry glares painted on their faces. Koei broke out into laughter. Well, look at the 2 of you. Such serious monkeys. But then again, I suppose I would be upset too, if I had just shown up to be slaughtered. Raditz's expression didn't change at all. Us? Slaughtered? Have you looked at your scouter at all? He asked through clenched teeth. Koei shrugged. So what if you raised your power? You aren't anything more than stupid apes. Power is nothing without skill behind it. Raditz growled. You miserable bigot. I'll show you what a stupid ape can do. He dashed forward, bringing his foot out in front of him for a lunging dropkick. Koei jumped high into the air, his carefree smile never leaving his face. It will be extremely fun to eradicate you. You ridiculous simians walk around all high and mighty. If Frieza would have allowed it, we would have beaten you to death all those years ago. Koei formed a large ball of energy in his hand and threw it directly into Raditz's path. He tried to stop, but he had far too much momentum. He crashed headlong into the energy ball, setting off a powerful explosion. The blast sent Raditz flying back the way he had came, smoke pouring off of his singed armor. He stuck out his arms and hands to stop his falling, digging a deep trench into the ground. Koei touched down on the floor as Raditz stood up and rubbed his shoulder. That was a nice attack, but you have to do better than that to stop me, Koei. Raditz formed a small energy ball in either hand. Shin Sokoden! He yelled as he threw the 2 orbs towards his foe. Koei jumped back into the air, sneering at his opponent's pathetic attack. Any fool could dodge those, you half-wit. There was a small smile on the Saiyan's face as he preformed a strange pattern of motions with his hands, nearly too fast for Koei to follow. His scouter went off and he turned behind him. The 2 energy balls had followed him up into the air. Is he controlling the orbs? What other sort of tricks has this monkey learned while he was away? Koei suddenly banked to the left, hoping to shake the ki off of his tail. The blast swerved with him, nearly catching him in the leg. "How do I get rid of these things?" he screamed in frustration. One came for his head, which he yanked to one side. The attack shot by, nearly clipping him as it passed. Raditz smiled, stopped his gestures, and clenched both of his hands into tight fists. Both balls exploded with tremendous power, leaving a huge cloud of smoke. The Saiyan warrior heard Nappa gasp behind him, but he knew better. It will take a bit more to finish off this fool. He dashed into the cloud of smoke, throwing out his fists with blinding speed. They clashed with another set of fists, creating a loud sound on collision. Raditz's hair flew back as he began a furious exchange of blows with Kui as they emerged from the cloud. "Just give up, you pathetic Saiyan. You can't stop me. Even if you do, how do you plan to defeat Frieza?" Raditz didn't answer as he gritted his teeth. "What is Nappa doing? I don't know if I can finish this bozo off alone." He risked a glance behind him and saw Nappa standing there, his arms crossed over his massive chest. His eyes were locked in a faraway stare. Kui took advantage of his momentary distraction and drove his fist down into where the Saiyan's neck met the shoulder. There was a cracking sound and Raditz dropped out of the sky, crashing into the ground, creating a large hole. Kui flew toward the ground at full speed. One of his hands pulled back for an energy attack. Raditz's ki built up under him, and he blasted out of the hole like a rocket, his fist raised up above him. Kui pulled back, thrown off guard as the energy dissipated from his hands. The only sound heard was a sickening crack as Raditz slammed his fist into Kui's face. The alien warrior came crashing into the ground, where he sat up on his elbow and rubbed his face. "You idiot! End this now!" he shouted. Raditz raised an eyebrow in confusion. "End it now? Is he talking to me?" His thoughts were cut off as he felt an incredible sensation of pain building up in his body. He tried to move but felt as if his body weighed far more than it ever had in the gravity chamber. What's happening?" He managed to turn his head to find Nappa holding his tail in his hand. "Nappa, why?" Nappa's face held more regret in it than Raditz had ever seen him show in his entire life. Very quietly, he asked, "Where did you learn those techniques?" Raditz's head was dropping, and he felt his consciousness beginning to fade. "I paid attention to them, the humans. While you scoffed at them for being weak, I paid attention. They managed to defeat me when they were far weaker than I was. What they don't have in power, they more than make up for in resource and ability. If you weren't so thick, maybe you could have learned from them too." Nappa shook his head. "No, the Saiyans are the most powerful race in the world. We don't need to look to a bunch of stupid earthlings. That's why I'm doing this. I don't want to see the Saiyan race destroyed." Raditz was losing his battle with unconsciousness, and he was having trouble forming sentences. "No, he'll kill you. Afraid of Super Sai." His sentence went unfinished as he finally gave in to the blackness. Nappa sighed. "It may be a risk, but it's the only chance the Saiyan race has." Kui sat up and hovered to where the two Saiyans were. "It took you long enough, you stupid ox. What were you waiting for? Him to kill me?" Nappa bit back a retort and shook his head. "We got him, didn't we? So relax." Kui angrily spit on the floor. "Whatever. Let's just bring this garbage back to Master Frieza." Tien shook his head as he felt more power levels disappear. "I should be out there fighting, not running a ridiculous errand. Who does that pompous bastard Vegeta think he is?" He looked over to Yamcha and Krillin as they spoke with the Namekian known as Mori. "We have discussed matters amongst ourselves. Lore has it that we should only give the Dragon Ball to a great hero." He turned to Krillin. "And so we give the mystical orb to you, great hero. We see great promise in you." Krillin went wide-eyed as Mori handed him the giant Dragon Ball. "I remember these things were a lot smaller on Earth. I wonder what the dragon will look like." He was pulled out of his thoughts by Yamcha laughing. "You, a great hero. Don't make me laugh." Krillin hung his head. "Yeah, I know. I'm no great hero. I mean, maybe a small hero. Or if we could get you some really big shoes, maybe you could make a medium hero." Yamcha continued to laugh at his own wit. Krillin walked off sullenly, silently willing himself to grow a few inches. Tien stood up as they returned. Excellent, they gave you the Dragon Ball. Now, we just have to hide it from those goons and meet up with the others. Krillin nodded and they both turned to Yamcha, who had finally stopped laughing long enough to come over. So, we ready to fly off? Yeah, we can go. Tien smirked. Do you have to wear that ridiculous scouter? You look like a moron. Krillin and Tien blasted off, leaving a bewildered Yamcha scratching his head. Really? I thought this thing looked badass. Frieza sat back and smiled. What a sorry collection you've brought me. Raditz, Goku, and Vegeta were sprawled out across the floor of Frieza's spaceship. Next to them was a pile of 5 Dragon Balls. Nappa, Kui, Zarbin, and Dodoria were all standing at attention, awaiting their master's orders. Very soon, we will be done with this wretched dust ball. There are 2 more Dragon Balls left before I obtain my wish. He was interrupted as his scouter began to beep. There are 3 power levels slightly below 20,000, and they're leaving a large cluster of low-level powers. His eyes shot open. They must have obtained one of the remaining Dragon Balls. Who are these 3? Nappa scratched his head. 3 powers below 20? That's gotta be those stupid humans. Zarbin gave Nappa a glare. Is there something you aren't telling us? Well, there are 3 Earthlings that were friends of this one. At this point, he kicked the prone Goku. They aren't anything to worry about. Frieza nodded. Fine. He turned to Kui. I want you to go and apprehend the Dragon Ball and dispose of these Earthlings. Kui wordlessly turned around and walked out of the room. Frieza leaned over the unconscious Saiyans. You foolish monkeys. See how quickly your silly rebellion has been squashed? Frieza's laugh began to echo throughout the halls of his ship as Kui flew off after the humans. Guys, I can't feel Goku's power anywhere. Tien closed his eyes, concentrating his sense of ki. After several hushed moments, he shook his head. I can't sense Goku or Piccolo at all. Yamcha flicked on the scouter on his eye. What was their power levels? Nappa said they were, Krillin shrugged. A little above 20,000, I think. Why? Do you have something on that thing? Yamcha nodded. There's a 20,000 coming at us pretty fast. Tien raised an eyebrow. That's not anyone we know. It doesn't feel familiar. He turned to Krillin. Quick, drop the Dragon Ball. Get ready to fight. Krillin nodded. He let go of the Dragon Ball and got into his Kame-Sennin stance. Yamcha and Tien took their own stances as the Dragon Ball crashed into the ground. Kui's form appeared so suddenly that it seemed as if he had been there the whole time. Tien jumped back and assumed a defensive stance, both of his hands in between him and the new arrival. Who in the hell are you? Kui turned towards Tien with a look of curiosity. Are you the Earthlings I was told about? Yamcha growled. We might be, and what if we are? Kui smiled, yet there was nothing but malice in his eyes. Then you should pray to whatever primitive gods you worship. I have been sent to destroy you all. Krillin began inching backwards, sweat forming on his brow. Tien's eyes narrowed. And what makes you think you can take us? There's 3 of us. The odds aren't on your side, buddy. Funny. You Earthlings look remarkably similar to the Saiyans. Kui glared at Tien. And you certainly act like one. Headstrong and foolish. Before any of the humans could react, Kui dashed at Tien and smashed his forearm into the Triclops' forehead. Krillin and Yamcha scattered either way, both to prepare a defense and to get away from their assailant. Tien threw out his arms, catching himself right before he hit the ground, performing a small backflip to land back on his feet. Krillin cupped his hands, preparing a Kamehameha. Yamcha narrowed his eyes and held out his hand. Wait a minute, Krillin. I want to take a crack at this one. The energy dissipated from the small monk's hands. He gave his friend a sideways look, unsure as to whether this was a good idea or not. Yamcha'll get creamed if he fights this guy head up. What's he thinking? Almost as if reading Krillin's mind, the wolf bandit smiled. Don't worry, I'm not that pathetic. Besides, if things look too tight, you and Tien can give me a hand, right? Krillin hesitantly nodded. Yamcha took this as the okay and dashed towards Kui. Kui's face split into a wide grin as the Earthling drew near. You fools are going to make this way too easy for me. He calculated where Yamcha would attack from and swung out his fist. At the last second, Yamcha twisted to the side, narrowly dodging the counterattack. Ha! I saw that coming a mile away. Inwardly, he thought, holy crap, that would have took my head off. I'll have to be more careful. He wrapped his arms around Kui's leg and used his ki to launch himself towards the ground, dragging Frieza's henchmen into the dirt with him. Dust flew up as they slammed into the earth. Yamcha scrambled up and readied himself for the counterattack. I have to keep this guy on the ground. I'm not good enough with the Bukujutsu yet. He pulled his hands back and began charging energy. Kui stood up and dusted himself off. There was a smirk on his face, but it had no traces of humor in it. Are we done playing games, yet, silly Earthling? You must know that there isn't any way for you to defeat me. Yamcha wore a confident smirk. Really? I try to have a more positive outlook on life. Nothing's impossible. Kamehameha. The blue energy wave tore through the air, ripping up the ground as it shot towards Kui. The alien took it head-on, creating a huge cloud of smoke. Yamcha relaxed, his shoulders sagging in relief. He's still alive, you idiot! Tien screamed down at about the same time as Yamcha's scouter began to beep. An energy blast ripped out of the dust cloud and slammed into the unsuspecting Yamcha. The blast was more than powerful enough to send Yamcha careening through a mountain, where he lay unmoving, smoke pouring off of his body. Damn! Tien cursed as he prepared to rush to the aid of his friend. Wait! Yamcha stood up slowly, a weak smile on his face. I'm not that helpless. Let me finish. He threw his arms up into a strange-looking position. Krillin groaned. Please don't tell me he's gonna use the Wolf Fang Fist. Chao Rogafufu Ken. Krillin slapped his forehead in frustration. Ultimate Wolf Fang Fist? The Wolf Fang Fist never works. When is he gonna learn? It leaves his legs wide open. Yamcha rushed forward, raising his hands in emulation of the claws of a wolf. He let out a guttural howl and jumped into the air, energy filling his fist as he came down on Kui. The officer raised his arm to block, but where Yamcha struck, the energy left claw marks cut through his arm. He let out an involuntary cry of pain. Yamcha took the opportunity to close in, sending out a lightning-fast volley of energy-enhanced claw attacks. Kui managed to dodge several of the strikes, but every time he was hit it was getting harder and harder to move. Kui realized he had to come up with something fast. If I don't, I'll lose to this pathetic human. It looks like he leaves his feet wide open during this move. I'll just swing in a kick here. Ack! Yamcha had brought his claw down into Kui's leg, blocking the kick he had thrown out. From above, Krillin raised his eye. Maybe he does learn. Kui lashed out with a right hook that hit its mark on Yamcha's face, and then fell to the ground, the various cuts and hits on his body proving to be too much. Dazed, Yamcha stumbled backwards a step. Ouch. Don't have anything left. He focused the last of his energy into his hand, and brought it down into the fallen Kui's chest, ripping a hole through it. Green blood sprayed out as Yamcha collapsed. Krillin and Tien flew towards him to make sure he was okay. Guru. Yes, my son, I know. I too felt one of the evil energies die. Perhaps there is some that aid us. I want you to go to where the evil energy faded and find out what is going on. Help those that would help us. Nail nodded, standing to his full impressive height. I shall do as you say, but I am worried. Will you be all right alone? Guru laughed in his deep voice, causing the inside of his house to shake slightly. I will not be alone. Someone is here to watch over me. Nail gave Guru a confused look. Someone? He was interrupted as a frantic knocking echoed throughout the house. He stared at the door as though it were of another world. Then again, it is the Guru. His powers are far beyond anything I could ever comprehend. He walked over to the door and opened it up. Standing there was a small Namekian boy, with a worried look in his eyes. He met Nail's stare and gave a small smile of relief. Hello, my name is Dend. My village elder, Muri, sent me to give you word of what has gone on this day. Nail nodded. The guru is upstairs. Follow me. After a hurried explanation, so Mori gave the Dragon Ball to the small Earthman. He said that someone had destroyed the other villages, and it was the smartest thing to do. Guru sighed. Mori made the right decision. Someone has gathered most of the Dragon Balls, and whoever it is has an evil aura about them. Perhaps the small Earthman is one of the ones who is attempting to protect us. He turned to Nail. Now your mission is much more urgent. Lend your hand to this Earthling. Only if we work together will we stand a chance. Nail nodded and exited the building. Guru looked at the small dent. You know, child, I can sense much talent buried deep within you. Perhaps I could release it? Frieza's rage caused his ki to slightly rise, knocking over all the small electronic equipment that had piled up in the bridge of his ship. He double-checked his scouter and then turned to Zarbin. Mr. Zarbin, Koei has been killed. No more mistakes. I want both you and Dodoria to go and handle these nuisances. Dodoria and Zarbin both nodded, but Dodoria looked slightly nervous. Koei is dead. What's going on here? But not a word was spoken as he and Zarbin headed off to the last recorded location of Koei's reading. Now it was only Frieza and Nappa in the room. Nappa, I want you to send out an emergency call for the Jinyu force. Nappa nodded, slightly nervous. Frieza had always set him on edge. He let his mind wander, and it ended up on Vegeta and Raditz, whom he had watched over since planet Vegeta had exploded. Have I made the right choice? His doubt was erased, however, as he thought back to the promise he had made King Vegeta merely days before the planet had exploded. As the general of the Saiyan army, it is my job to ensure that the race lives on. And that is all. I'm sorry, Vegeta. Frieza noticed Nappa's pause and gave him a stern look. Do not worry yourself with the prince. I have yet to decide his fate. Right now, all you should concern yourself with is my orders. Nappa nodded wordlessly and turned toward the communication device. Frieza went on, enjoying the frightened silence of his companion. I doubt that Dodoria and Zarbin will fail, but it is nice to cover all eventualities, don't you think? Still no answer. Frieza's smile broadened. And when you are done, Nappa, I believe you and I will go on a little adventure. Tien took his fingers off of Yamcha's wrist. He met Krillin's worried eyes. Well, he still has a pulse. Krillin finally let out the breath he had been holding in. So he's gonna be okay? The Triclops narrowed his eyes. I didn't say that. He used up all his energy. His body has nothing left to recuperate itself. And he took a couple of serious blows. Whoever this guy was, he was really powerful. Krillin's eyes went wide in panic. Tien shook his head. We need to get him some help, or he might get worse. Krillin went to go pick up his old friend as he nodded to Tien. Okay, grab that Dragon Ball and we'll get him back to the ship. Tien bent down to pick up the orb, but stopped suddenly. There was a great deal of energy approaching from the west. He turned to Krillin. Wait, put him down. We've got trouble. Company to your left. Krillin gently put down Yamcha and felt a lump build up in his throat. This isn't good. We have to take care of Yamcha. We don't have time for another fight. Where the hell is Goku? He wearily took up his fighting stance and nodded to Tien. I suppose we can't just run away, can we? He attempted a weak smile. Tien shook his head. Not a chance. Do you feel how fast these powers are coming? You think you can outrun him? So we fight then. They didn't say another word until the powers got close enough to see. The shapes of Dodoria and Zarbin formed as they both landed gracefully on the floor. Dodoria looked at Tien and sneered. Their eyes locked in a mental power struggle as Dodoria's lips curled upward into a menacing smirk. This is it? This is what Frieza sent us out to kill. Without breaking his staring match with Dodoria, Tien said to Krillin, Hey Krillin, these two work for that Frieza guy. I bet they know what happened to Goku and Vegeta. Zarbin smirked. So you are in league with the monkeys. How amusing. He tilted his head towards the unconscious Yamcha. Is he the one who killed Koei? Krillin put himself in between Zarbin and his fallen friend. So what if he is? Leave him out of this. Krillin's voice shook as he spoke, and his teeth were clattering out of anxiety. Zarbin's smirk turned into a very unfriendly smile, with teeth showing. "Well, aren't you the brave little warrior?" he said in a mocking tone. "Well, someone must be held responsible for the death of Koei. Are you two taking that role?" Tien spit on the floor right in front of Dodoria's feet. Neither of them had broken the menacing stare that had gone on during Zarbon and Krillin's little exchange. He continued the glare, but inside he was worried. The power coming off of these guys is amazing. They could be almost as strong as Goku. I don't know if we can actually take them. Tien didn't have much more time for worry as he caught Zarbon give a barely perceptible nod out of the corner of his eye. That seemed to give Dodoria the okay, as he dashed at Tien. The former assassin barely had the chance to throw up a block, and when the attack collided, he felt the shock go up his forearm. His training as an assassin kept him from showing his weakness, and he gritted his teeth and brought his foot up high enough to crack Dodoria's chin. He took the momentary lapse to gather himself. He's good, but he doesn't have the same kind of aura as his friend over there. He glanced at Zarbon, who had begun to clash fists with Krillin. Tubby over here waited for that one's orders. Pretty boy must be in charge. His aura is strong, but it feels like he has more power than he's letting on. I wonder if it's a good idea to let Krillin fight him. He was knocked out of his thoughts by a right hook from Dodoria. Tien turned his backwards momentum into a handspring that sent him flying back towards the large alien. Dodoria tried to determine where Tien would appear and threw out a fist. Tien saw it coming and sneered, using a small burst of ki to swerve out of the way, bringing his knee around into Dodoria's side. Dodoria's armor cracked where he was hit, and his eyes bulged out as he clutched at the spot, which Tien couldn't help but notice was slightly discolored, as if it had been scarred. Dodoria forced out a breath. "Right where the damn Namek put a hole through me. I didn't have time to stay in a recuperation chamber for long enough." Krillin was not having such luck against Zarbon. The vain warrior had much more skill than his counterpart, and a bit more power to boot. It took all of the monk's speed just to be able to dodge Zarbon's blindingly fast blows, let alone go in for a counterattack. Krillin tried to roll to the side, giving him a chance for a low attack, but was met with Zarbon's foot. The blow sent Krillin into the floor, his head throbbing where he was hit. He checked his skull, and was relieved and a bit surprised that there were no dents. He took a second to shake off the dizziness and jumped up. No sooner had he focused his eyes, a blow came flying at him. He ducked to the side, and a large rock broke under the force of Zarbon's fist. A small piece of debris flew into Zarbon's eyes, momentarily blinding him. "Damn!" he screamed as he clawed at his eyes. Krillin took the opportunity to land a jump kick to his stricken opponent's face. The attack sent Zarbon into the air, where he righted himself and quickly spun around, firing a blast behind him at head height. Krillin barely managed to duck in time, the blast nearly decapitating him. "Geez, he's friggin' quick. How did he recover so quickly?" Krillin tried to move to the side, but Zarbon let loose a second ki attack, which the Earthling wasn't lucky enough to dodge. Now that his previous injury from Piccolo was exposed, Dodoria was running out of steam quickly. Tien began to furiously pound on him with the Tsurusenin open-handed machine gun jabs, causing the pink fighter to cough out blood. After what seemed like 100 strikes, the Triclops brought up both of his hands and threw them down in an axe-handle attack on Dodoria's head. The alien smashed into the ground, making a small indent with his large stomach. Tien pointed a finger at his fallen opponent, no emotion showing on his face. "Dadanpa!" A small beam of yellow energy fired out from his finger, fine and sharp almost like a laser, cleanly piercing Dodoria's back from where Tien assumed his heart would be. Frieza's fat officer's last breath was cut off halfway through. Tien turned to see how Krillin was faring, just in time to see him flying in his direction, smoke trailing behind the small monk. The two humans collided, crashing into the ground. Krillin shakily got up onto his elbows and gave a small chuckle. "Hey Tien, he's a lot more powerful than he looks. No chance you've got some kind of new technique, do you?" Tien got up and smirked. "What would I need a new technique for? My old ones work just fine." He made a triangle with his hands, putting the charging Zarbon in his sights. Kikaho! The blast slammed right into Zarbon, putting him into a mountain. Krillin and Tien walked over to the hole, smoke pouring out. Zarbon pulled himself out, anger radiating off of his face. "Fine. You foolish humans want to play rough. Tien and Krillin both went to dash at him, but Zarbon reverted back to his monster form. Shockwaves of energy washed over the two humans, halting them in their tracks and sending them flying backwards. Tien quickly got up, a heavy feeling in his stomach. This was the hidden power I felt from him. It's huge. He went to attack, but his legs felt like they were glued to the floor. This power, it's paralyzing. The monstrous Zarbon moved so fast he seemed to disappear, his shape reforming right in front of the frozen Triclops. He cocked back his arm and smashed it sideways into Tien's temple, sending the Earthling into the floor. Tien. Krillin felt Tien's ki drop, similar to Yamcha's. That's why he needs some new moves. The Kikaho takes way too much out of him. He slowly managed to stand, his body screaming protests with every movement. Zarbon gave him an amused look, preparing to finish him off. I suppose I have no choice then. I'll try to catch him with my... His thoughts were interrupted as a green blur slammed into Zarbon, sending him flying. Krillin turned to see who had saved him, and nearly passed out in surprise. Piccolo. The Namek turned to him and gave him a confused look. Piccolo? How do you know how to speak Namekian? Anyway, I'm not the one from another world. That's you. My name is Nail. Krillin scratched his head. Another world? That's what Piccolo means in your language. Another world. How do you know my language? Nail frowned. It is the language that Frieza uses. Because of his extended reach over the universe, the language has spread considerably. Krillin shrugged. Well, that's convenient. They both turned as Zarbon managed to get up. His arms were shaking, and his breathing was ragged. Nail gave Krillin a small smile before he turned to face Zarbon. Go check on your friends. I'll clean up this trash, and then we can head to somewhere safe. Krillin looked at Nail and hesitated. You sure? He's really powerful. Nail's smile broadened as he let his ki flow outward, revealing his true power. Krillin's protests died out and he nodded. You clean up the trash, right? He mumbled to himself as he went to take care of Yamcha and Tien. Zarbon cracked his neck. You seem awfully confident. For a Namekian. He pressed a button on his scouter and his eyes widened as a number popped up. 42,000? Who are you? We had seen this power before, but we had assumed it was a cluster of Nameks. The normal Namek has a power of maybe 1,000. Where did this one come from? He cleared his face of fear and stared at Nail. No matter. I can still crush you in my enhanced form. Zarbon dashed at Nail, charging his ki into a pulled back hand. When he got close, he let all the energy out in one violent burst, the wave of ki washing over the Namek, who made no attempt to move or block. Zarbon grinned evilly, fully expecting to find Nail dead. When the blinding energy faded, Zarbon saw that Nail had not moved an inch. My attack. It had no effect. Zarbon felt a cold sweat forming on his brow, and an involuntary shake began near his knees. Nail flashed another broad smile and brought one of his hands up. Is this what you were trying to do? He opened his hand wide, and without taking any time to amass any ki, he let out a wave that was much bigger and stronger than the one Zarbon had just attempted. When the attack died out, there was nothing left of Zarbon, clothing or otherwise. The loud shockwave from the blast had even drowned out his final death cries. Krillin turned when he heard the blast and looked on in wonder. Holy hell! Thank Kami he's on our side. He killed that monster in one shot. Krillin managed to lift Yamcha up, supporting him on his shoulder. He turned to Nail and shouted, Hey, you ready to go? These guys need help. Nail walked over and easily hoisted up Tien, who let out a small grunt. Good. That means he's still okay. Out loud he said, Okay, we shall take them to my master's house. He'll know what to do. With his free hand, he picked up the Dragon Ball and checked it for any damages. As they lifted themselves into the air, he turned to Krillin. Where did you get this? Krillin paused in midair. A guy named Mori gave it to me. Told me I was gonna be a great hero or something. Nail smiled. So Guru was right yet again. You are the one who met with Mori. Come. Guru will be happy to meet with you. Krillin and Nail both shot off, taking care to not allow Tien and Yamcha to get hurt by the sudden increase in speed. As they flew off, Krillin found his mind wandering towards this guru that Nail kept referring to. This Nail guy is so powerful, and he looks up to this guru so much. I wonder what he'll be like. Yamcha floated in the air, his long hair flowing through the breeze. He had just received a substantial power-up from the Namekian guru, and had flown off to face down two of the most feared group of the galaxy, the Jinyu Squad. He now stood in front of Guldo and Rikum, both sided wondering who would make the first strike. Yamcha grinned and played the card of surprise as he dashed at the gigantic Rikum. Rikum tried to dodge to the side, but Yamcha was too fast, bringing a fist up into Rikum's stomach. Rikum's eyes seemed to bulge out of his skull, and all the air was pressed out of his lungs. Yamcha spun around, sending a foot into the side of Rikum's head. The large Jinyu member smashed into the ground, sending up a cloud of dust. Yamcha turned to the small Guldo, his grin practically plastered to his face. So this is how Goku feels all the time. No wonder he's so happy all the time. This is great. Guldo pulled back, trying to find a route of escape. Yamcha laughed. Not so tough without Frieza, are you? Behind him, Rikum flew up into the air, bringing his fist into the back of Yamcha's head. Yamcha fell to the side, flipping in midair and landing on his feet. As he touched ground, Rikum's fist came down, making a huge hole in the ground where Yamcha had been. The Earthling was floating in their air, charging a Kamehameha into his hands. Hey ugly, catch! Yamcha felt his new power building into his cupped hands. This power inside me, it's huge. Before he realized what was happening, he felt his hands expanding. There was too much energy. The power had gotten too strong. The Kamehameha had built up too quickly, and the attack backfired, all the energy detonating far too close to him. Ah! He screamed as he dropped out of the sky, smashing into the ground. Ha! This long-haired guy is just about as dumb as you are, Rikum. The large Jinyu member growled as he smacked Guldo in the side of the head. Yamcha sat up on his elbows, craning his neck up to look at the two Jinyus laughing at him. He sighed and looked down at his orange ki, which was now disintegrated on the side where the Kamehameha had backfired. Where there was cloth, it was now a singed black. Most of his long hair had also been burned, leaving him with a lopsided haircut that merely came up to his neck. He dropped from his elbows back to the ground and sighed. Man, it took years to grow my hair out that long. He took the momentarily lull in battle to gather his wits. He remembered an old mantra that the mutant Rashi had taught him when they were training years ago. He felt like he could still hear the old master's voice in his head, as clear as when he had first been told the secret. Now remember, Yamcha, the Kamehameha attack doesn't drain your energy. It merely focuses it. You must have a clear head in order to use the technique correctly. Yamcha answered the invincible old master with a simple nod. Rashi's eyes gleamed behind his oversized sunglasses as he continued. In order to concentrate, you must find something to bring all of your focus to. Something to make you feel comfortable. Now come with me and I will teach you a mantra. If you ever lose your concentration, recite the lines I show you, and your focus will be renewed. Yamcha smiled as he followed Rashi around the side of the Kame house. For all the silly stunts and all the harsh training, sometimes the old turtle hermit can really come through. He really sounds wise and helpful. Yamcha snapped back into reality as he rounded the corner. Sitting on the beach was Bulma, sunning in a small blue bikini. His face went red as he turned to the master, who had a devilish grin on his face. I tend to stick with what works for me personally. Now repeat after me. The bikini is blue. The bikini is blue. Yamcha gave him an estranged look. Rashi hit him in the back of the head with his cane. Do you want to master the attack or not? Yamcha sighed and nodded reluctantly. The bikini is blue. The bikini is blue. He joined in reluctantly. Bulma's ears pricked up, and she turned, noticing the two staring at her. What are you two pervs gawking at? Rashi jumped behind Yamcha, almost too fast for the eye to see. And now, for your next lesson, insane women. Yamcha couldn't help but smile as he came out of the memory. Such good times we had. Back when things were simple. It's all gotten too big. Yamcha closed his eyes and began to murmur to himself. The bikini is blue. The bikini is blue. Despite it being ridiculous, Yamcha had found that the mantra truly did calm him down. Sometimes he found himself wondering if Rashi really was as goofy as he acted. Everything he said turned out to be right, and all of his training bred some of the strongest fighters in the world. He shook his head and brought himself back to the here and now. The bikini is blue. His energy leveled off and he felt like he was in control. He got out of the ground and smiled softly. The bikini is blue. Goldo and Rikum gave each other a puzzled stare. What's he talking about? Rikum asked. Goldo simply shrugged. Before they could react, Yamcha dashed in, bringing an elbow into Rikum's head. The large fighter fell to the ground, and Yamcha began to charge energy into his cupped hands again. No screw-ups this time. Kamehameha. The blast erupted, sending a large beam of blue down towards the hulk of a fighter. Rikum looked up just as the attack washed over him, creating a giant explosion. Yamcha shook his head. He had a small sensation like his entire body just decided to skip a beat. He felt two powers to the side, and turned, finding Goldo holding Rikum, the small Jinyu breathing heavily. How the hell? In confusion, Yamcha flew towards the new targets. Goldo tried to regain his breath, and then shouted, Rikum! Attack Formation B! Once again, Yamcha felt the sensation of missing a moment. Almost as if he had blinked, Goldo and Rikum had disappeared, and energy attacks were coming in from either side. He didn't have the time to orient himself, and the blasts connected cleanly. Smoking and slightly pained, Yamcha dropped to the ground, trying to gain his bearings. What the hell is going on here? He mumbled to himself. 1 second they're there, the next they disappear. They can't be that fast. Rikum overheard Yamcha's disoriented comments. He pulled back and began to laugh heartily. Ha! You dumb human. Goldo has special powers. Why else do you think he got onto the team with his power rating? Yamcha scratched his head. Hidden powers? Rikum smiled. Yep, he can stop time, but only as long as he can hold his Brea. Shut up. Goldo's whiny voice cut off the mammoth's rambling. You idiot. Don't tell him what's going on. Confusion is half of the technique's power. Rikum's forehead screwed up in the effort of thought. So, I shouldn't tell him that you can only stop time for as long as you hold your breath. Goldo hung his head and sighed. Why couldn't I be teamed up with Jis? Well, now that you ruined the surprise, we better finish this guy off. Come on. Yamcha had the time to process the information just as time stopped for him again. Goldo held in his breath and floated over to where Rikum was. The big oaf was frozen as well, but they had spent hours drilling attack formations so that they could both get the jump on opponents. Even though Rikum was frozen, he knew exactly where he was going to appear. Goldo set them up and let out an exhale of breath just as he launched his strongest blast of ki. Rikum shook his head, taking less than a second to reorient himself, and did likewise. This time, Yamcha was a little more ready, but he still had no margin of error. He managed to dodge Goldo's blast out of sheer instinct, but Rikum's blast caught him in the back. The big Jinyu didn't have enough ki to really hurt him, but the damage was starting to build up. Time to pull out all the stops. Yamcha closed his eyes and began to repeat, "The bikini is blue," softly. There was a sharp increase in his ki, and there seemed to be a glow around him. All of his charged energy seemed to flow out at once, but instead of shooting out, it floated in the air and took the shape of a wolf. Wolf Fong Soul. He preformed a series of blindingly fast motions with his hands, and the ethereal wolf seemed to come to life. Its body was extremely statusy, flashing between a light yellow and white. It began to move forward, and as it leapt, its eyes began to glow a deep red. The wolf let out a guttural howl and began to rush towards Rikum. Rikum tried to dodge to the side, but the wolf turned on its ankle and renewed its chase. "I can't shake this thing," he screamed as he flew away, using all of his power. He gained no ground, however, and the wolf got closer, biting at his ankles. Suddenly, Yamcha felt the sensation he had associated with Goldo's time-stopping powers. As he expected, when he came back into reality, Rikum was much further away, being held by the out-of-breath Goldo. The wolf didn't seem to be fazed by the shift in time, and instantly refocused on Rikum. Not even a second was wasted as the energy wolf launched right back into its pursuit. Yamcha laughed. That won't work. It'll catch up with you sooner or later. It doesn't think. There's no disorientation. It'll hunt you until it catches you, just like a wolf should. The last bit came out a bit quieter, and was directed mostly to himself. He seemed to make a decision, and launched himself into the air after the pair of genius. Yamcha came from one side, the wolf on the other. Goldo took in his breath, and grabbed Rikum, dropping down, the only way out available to him. His lungs were getting tired, and he knew he wasn't going to be able to keep this up much longer. He looked at Rikum, and shook his head. They were far out of the range of their training drills, and he knew he couldn't expect much help from him. He tried to gather ki, but his breath was running low. Hopefully it would be enough to stun him. Yamcha snapped back into real time, and immediately pulled down, knowing that was the only place the small time stopper could run to. He was met with a blast to the face, but it barely fazed him as he came down on Goldo, putting a fist into his head, knocking him out. The wolf caught up with Rikum and flowed over him. The goofy fighter felt a wave of pain unlike any he had experienced before. The wolf disappeared, and it seemed as if all the energy was inside of his body. And boy did it hurt. It felt as if the wolf was ripping apart all of his insides. Rikum's eyes crossed, and he let out a small burp of black smoke as he slowly fell forward. No sooner had he landed, Yamcha's fist smashed into his head. He sat on top of the larger fighter and lost himself to the pleasure of victory. How does it feel? Rikum didn't answer. Was he alive? Had he died? None of that seemed to even register in Yamcha's brain as he began to smash his fists into the unmoving alien. Did you enjoy laughing at me? I am not the weakest. How does it feel? His screams were becoming incoherent as he lost his battle with his own feelings, blinded by a rage that had nothing to do with Rikum, but had a lot to do with being the weak link, and with being laughed at and a fear of dying. He continued to pound away, unaware of the blood flying up and staining his face. His ki aura began to build up, and the rest of his GI top burned away just from his sheer power. All the while, he continued to murmur, "I will not die," over and over again as he desecrated Rikum's corpse. This continued on for what seemed to the wolf bandit as hours, his vision stained red not only from the blood all over his face, but also the blind animalistic survival rage that had taken over. Suddenly his body stopped following his commands, and he felt himself rising away from his carnage. From behind him, he heard a disgusted intake of air, and he managed to look down at what he had done. Did I do that? What happened to me? Out loud, he managed to struggle out the words, What's going on? Goldo stepped in front of him, his hands outstretched. My time-stopping ability wasn't enough to stop you, obviously, so now I've used my telekinesis. You are frozen until my discretion says otherwise. He glanced over at Rikum's lifeless and also headless body. He looked as if he were about to vomit for a moment, but then he regained his composure. And I doubt that will happen anytime soon. With one hand, he punched a button on his scouter. Captain, he said. Yamcha realized they must also use the scouters as communicators. I need some help. Rikum is dead. There was a silence in which Yamcha could only assume there was a response from the other side. He couldn't hear anything, however. Don't worry, I have the guy trapped in telekinesis. You'll send Berta and Jis? Fine. Goldo turned back to Yamcha with an evil grin. Now you're in for it. Just sit tight. My friends will be here soon. Yamcha tried to gulp, but found he lacked the freedom to even do that. His mind began to race, and he tried to find a way out of this mess. Guru shook his head. He had felt everything that had happened. In the privacy of his head, he mourned. That poor boy. If only we did not need to rely on these humans. The trials that they will face will be harsh. Their entire lives shall be tragic. The curse of the strongest guru redirected his attention to Tien. There, my child, your inner power has been awakened. Tien stood up and smiled. This power is amazing. It is even greater than that which Yamcha possesses. Guru frowned slightly. And it is he who needs your help. There is no time for dawdling. You must go to him. Tien nodded, his back already towards them as he wasted no more words and set off to help Yamcha. Guru turned to Krillin. And lastly, we have you. I wonder how you will fare. Krillin bowed his head. I won't be that much help. Suddenly he remembered the Namekian who had saved his life. Hey, can't you unlock Nail's powers? He's much stronger than I am. Guru smiled. I am afraid not. Nail is only so strong because I have already opened up his inner strength. Cannot be done twice. Dejected, Krillin slowly stepped forward. Oh, was all he could manage to get out. Guru gave a small chuckle as he placed his hand on Krillin's head. You must be more confident in yourself. I sense great powers in you, much greater than anything the world has ever seen. Krillin didn't answer. What I have unlocked now is only a fraction of what you warriors are capable of. Through perseverance and training, you will one day be much stronger than you are now. It was a compliment, and Krillin knew it was a compliment, but he still couldn't find himself to take it. He sighed softly and prepared himself for the increase in power. Yamcha struggled against his psychic bonds, but to no avail. He could barely open his mouth enough to utter, "Damn it." Guldo laughed as he shoved a boot into Yamcha's stomach. Now you're in for it. Jis and Berta are on their way. Jis' ki is higher than even Captain Jinyu's, and Berta is the fastest guy in the universe. Things aren't looking good for you, buddy. Almost as if on cue, two specks in the distance became the two aliens Berta and Jis. Guldo's grin widened. In fact, here they are now. Jis landed and looked over at Rikum's disfigured corpse. What the hell happened to the idiot? Guldo's smile began to fade. Well, this guy went a little ballistic. I'm holding him with my telekinesis. Berta walked over to the frozen Yamcha and spit in his face. This one? He barely looks worth our trouble. Inside, Yamcha's head was spinning with rage, but even with all his new powers, the telekinesis proved to be too much. He could do nothing but watch on as he was humiliated by the strange alien squad. Guldo nodded. That's what we thought. But he has a power level of 120,000. Jis smirked. Oh? Is that so? Well, I suppose we can't have this guy running around with a power as high as the captain's. Jis pulled back his hand, and an abnormal amount of ki began to fill into his palm. It formed into a large red ball and began to spin extremely fast. Here you go, Chief. Try my crusher ball. The energy attack whizzed through the air, leaving a streak of red as it passed. Yamcha struggled to move again, but there was no hope. The crusher ball smashed into Yamcha's chest, ripping through and right out the other side. The telekinesis was released, and Yamcha fell to the floor, clutching at the gaping hole. His lungs were destroyed, and he kept opening and closing his mouth, trying to take one final breath. His ki rapidly fell, as if it was leaking out of the wound, until it eventually hit rock bottom. Yamcha's eyes rolled inward and he died. Took him long enough. Jis rolled his eyes, imitating Yamcha, and the other two genius laughed. Guru was drawing out Krillin's latent energy when he felt the death of the human warrior. Krillin obviously felt it as well because suddenly his power shot up, rising at almost double the rate it had been before. In the privacy of his head, Guru allowed his surprise to show. This young earthling has incredible capability. I've never seen such a reaction to my unlocking ability. Simply amazing. Jis, Berta, and Jinyu continued laughing at the defeated Yamcha. Suddenly, their session of fun was cut short as Jis' scouter went wild. Instinctively, Berta dodged to the side, his movements completely invisible to the naked eye. Where he had been, a small yellow beam smashed into the ground, creating a small hole. The scouter beeped again, and Guldo drew in a breath, freezing time. He ran several meters to the side, and let time flow once again. Another beam smashed into the floor, this time where he had been standing. Tien grimaced as he looked at the scene below him. The two creatures he had aimed at both moved so fast, he couldn't make out their movements. Further to the side, he saw the body of Yamcha. He had felt his power drop, but had hoped he was simply wounded. From what he could see, Yamcha was dead. It upset him, but death was something he was used to. The only thing he could do now was seek revenge for his friend. As Tien's feet touched the ground, G's scouter flashed a number. Holy hell! The red alien yelled. Berta and Guldo both gave him a worried look. The weirdo hits 138,000. Berta's eyes narrowed. I guess we'll just have to team up on him. Then, Tien's face broke into a mean-looking smirk. Or maybe I'll just team up on you guys. His arms crossed over one another as he concentrated his energy. Suddenly, through a hazy aura, Tien split into 3 separate Tiens. They appeared to be of 3 minds, but yet, they were completely alike. Without saying a word, the 3 fighters lunged at the Jinyu force. Yamcha had been walking around aimlessly for the past few minutes, wondering where the hell he was. He remembered that attack flying towards him, and he remembered a painful struggle. But everything else was a little fuzzy. Sure are a lot of clouds here. He mused to himself. Wait a minute. With a slight fear in his heart and growing anticipation, he gingerly reached up and felt the top of his head. Sure enough, reaffirming his suspicions, on top of his head there was a golden halo. He now recognized the small white wisps floating along next to him. He was in the afterlife. He hung his spiritual head as he continued towards the big house in the distance. So I died after all. That figures. I guess I wasn't strong enough even with that power up. Now I'm dead. Yamcha frowned as he moved up in the line of souls. Everyone else is just a cloud of smoke. He inspected his hands closer. It feels like I still have my body. I wonder why. Yamcha was so lost in his thoughts that he missed his name the first 3 times. Suddenly Lord Enma's voice was raised, knocking plaques and things off of the walls. I said, Yamcha. Yamcha's head shot up. All thoughts dropped as he stared up at the Lord of the Underworld, Lord Enma. There was a scowl on the gigantic man's face. Lord Enma hated to be kept waiting. Where's your head, boy? Yamcha scratched the back of his neck as he laughed nervously. Sorry about that, sir. I've just never been dead before. Enma's frown faded as he looked down at his paperwork. Well, we've gotten a good word from the Kami of Earth, so we've been advised to send you on ahead. Yamcha's face lit up. Maybe things wouldn't be so bad. Kami talk to you? Enma nodded. We'll see if you are strong enough to handle what comes next. Yamcha gulped. Even when I'm dead, I don't get a break. The 3 members of the Jinyu squad each had their hands full trying to fight one of the Tiens. While Tien had a much higher power level than the other fighters, when he split into 3, so did his power, leaving each Tien at about 50,000. It's closer to 46,000, but who's counting? Each of the 3 Jinyu members had an innate ability, and Tien was getting a taste of that firsthand. Guldo's time freezing was giving the psychic fighter trouble, as was Berta's super speed. Jis was physically more powerful than the split fighter, and his ki was extremely stronger. Tien realized he needed to even the odds quickly. The Tien fighting Guldo, now referred to as Tien 1, smashed his opponent's head, knocking him back. He began to concentrate all of his energy, and after an agonizing minute of charging, he released it all in the form of 2 extra arms that ripped out of either of his shoulders. Shio-ken, he yelled as the arms sprouted. Let's see how you handle the fist of the 4 arms. All 4 of his hands pointed one finger at the small Jinyu member, and small dots of ki began to build at the tip. Tien 1 grinned as he fired the 4 times Dodonpa blast. Guldo froze time in a reflex action trying to get to safety. Even with the help from his power, it was still hard to dodge all 4 Dodon blasts. His work was far from over, however. As soon as time kicked back in, Tien 1 began to build up more blasts. Over and over again, Guldo managed to escape the volley of blasts by the skin of his teeth. But his breath was running low, and the 3-eyed warrior didn't seem to be tiring anytime soon. Another set of ki was frozen en route, and Guldo tried to float to the side. But he felt a slight itch in his throat, and his breath expelled from his mouth violently in a cough. Time kicked back in rather harshly, and one of the Dodonpas ripped through his shoulder. Argek! An involuntary yell escaped from Guldo's mouth as he smashed into the ground, his ability to fly severely hampered by his newly received wound. Seconds after the impact, Tien's foot slammed down into Guldo's neck, instantly killing him. Tien 1 turned his head up, trying to get an idea of how his counterparts were faring. Tien 2 was taking a beating at the hands of the powerful Jis, and Tien-3 was being run circles around by Berta. Tien-1 realized he needed to get back into the fight, and fast. Pushing off of the ground with his ki, he raced towards where Jis was beating Tien-2. Tien-2 barely managed to stop his momentum as he flew backwards, courtesy of Jis' left hook. The multiform had seemed like a good idea at the time. Well, too late to worry about it. Tien-2 steeled his nerves and rushed forward at Jis once more. There was a quick flurry of blows as both Tien and Jis threw out their fists in an effort to gain the advantage. Tien put his all into the exchange, but it was obvious he couldn't keep it up for long. Sweat was forming on his brow, and his punches were losing their speed. Jis saw the opportunity, pulled back a fist, and Tien-2 opened his eyes slowly, still waiting for the punch that never came. To his surprise, he saw not Jis, but Tien-1 in front of him. Jis was laying on the ground, rubbing the back of his neck. Tien-1 massaged his knuckles and smiled at himself. These guys sure have hard heads. Tien-2 returned the smile and took a second to build back up his ki. That's not all. They have really nice hard fists too. Be careful. Tien-1 cracked his knuckles and sighed. You seem to be having some trouble on your own. Maybe we should join back up. There was a wordless nod between the two, and they gently brought their hands together. There was a sharp blast of light, and when visibility returned, Jis found himself looking at only one three-eyed warrior. He checked his scouter, and his fear was confirmed. Those two merged, and so did their powers. He's up to 96,000. The reformed Tien grinned as he took the upper hand, bringing his knee into Jis' stomach. Spit and blood flew out of his mouth as he clutched at his abdomen. Before he could recover, Tien's elbow smashed into the side of the red fighter's head. Jis fell back, but managed to use his ki to right himself before he smashed into the ground. He turned his head towards Berta, and found that his partner was faring much better than he was. Using his speed to his advantage, Berta kept poking at Tien-3 with light jabs that were beyond what Tien could even see. The attacks weren't doing much damage on their own, but Tien was taking a lot of them, and the damage was adding up. I've got to start dealing some damage of my own, or I'm in some serious trouble. Tien went to throw a punch, but Berta dodged to the side, turning into a blur as he moved out of the way. He brought his knee up, digging it deep into Tien's exposed side. He fell to the ground, pangs of sharp pain shooting through his body as he clutched at his injury. His eyes began to grow heavy, and he slumped to the floor, unconscious. Berta laughed as he floated over him, preparing for a final attack to finish the human off. Suddenly his scouter cut in with Jis' voice. Berta, get over here. Berta turned to where Jis was fighting the stronger Tien. Using his speed, he shot towards where they were fighting and smashed his fist into the back of Tien's head. Berta and Jis stood next to each other and began building up their ki. Berta's blue ki and Jis' red ki began to mingle together, making a huge purple aura over them. Tien stood up, rubbing the back of his head where Berta had hit him. He looked up at the two warriors charging their power, and shuddered. That power is enormous. He looked around, trying to find his weaker self. He found him lying on the ground, and he wasn't moving. Berta and Jis began to spin around each other, and the purple aura around them began to grow even stronger. Purple Comet! They both screamed in unison. The two of them flew towards the ground, aiming at the unconscious Tien on the ground. The stronger Tien used all of his ki to speed towards them, hoping to intercept the Jinyu members. Tien managed to get in between them and his weaker half. He boosted his ki to his max and tried to block the attack. Right as the two Jinyus got close, Tien felt the power of the attack. It's too much. The purple comet attack smashed into Tien, sending him sprawling to the ground, where he slammed into the unconscious Tien. There was another flash of light, and Tien was complete once again. His three parts, however, had taken a serious beating, and his full form was feeling the effects of it. He got to his feet slowly, sharp flashes of pain running through his body. Berta and Jis came around with another purple comet attack, but this time Tien was ready. He pulled his hands together and got the purple ball in his sights. Kick-a-ho! He yelled as his trademark finishing attack incinerated the two Jinyu Force members. He smiled for a second, Yamcha's death having been avenged. But then his knees buckled, and he fell to the ground, His arms and legs spread in exhaustion, as if he was trying to make a snow angel. The beating he had taken, combined with the extreme taxation of the Kikaho, had taken its toll on his body. I still feel two strong evil powers in the distance, but my body won't respond to me. Maybe if I just lay here for a few. Captain Jinyu couldn't believe his eyes as he checked his scouter. All of the squad have been wiped out. That's impossible. He pressed the communication button and got nothing but static. This can't be. Who would be strong enough to defeat all of them? He pressed several more buttons on his scouter and traced the last known location of his men's power levels. He let out a low growl and lifted up into the air. Whoever it was, they shall pay. No one has any idea how hard it was to get them to perfect those poses. Frieza smiled as he looked at the battered body of Raditz. No matter how much power they have, they are nothing more than ants before my might. Monkeys shall always be monkeys, it seems. Yes, Lord Frieza. Frieza's head scientist bowed his head slightly. As for the other two, we have placed them in the decomposition machines just as you have asked. Frieza smiled as he pictured Vegeta inside one of those torture machines. They were similar to the healing pods that were used for recuperation, but their purpose was the exact opposite. Instead of restoring tissue, the decomposition machine slowly destroyed tissue layer by layer, causing extreme pain to the unlucky person inside. The tyrant and his scientists stopped in front of two such machines and looked in on the inhabitants. Goku and Vegeta were each in a chamber, looks of extreme pain etched across their faces. Vegeta's tail was twitching in agony as well. Frieza's smile faded into a frown. Look at that vulgar tail, all hairy and unseemly. I suppose it's fitting for the prince of the monkeys. Frieza looked as if he was mulling over something. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, and his smile returned threefold. I want Vegeta taken out of the chamber. Lord, place a limiter on him so he cannot act out. Then, his smile grew into a cruel grin. I want you to remove his tail. Frieza's scientist gave his master a confused look. I don't follow, Lord. You don't need to, but think about it. Vegeta places pride in nothing more than his pathetic Saiyan ancestry. Imagine the prince of all Saiyans with no tail. Understanding dawned on the servant. Ah, I see, Lord Frieza. You are terribly cunning and cruel. Frieza nodded. Flattery will get you nowhere. Now get to work. Tien was just about to fall into a deep sleep when something flared up on the outer reaches of his perception. A great rage and a great power, and it was coming right at him. His eyes shot open and he struggled to his feet. The power felt no greater than his, but he was in no condition to fight. Somehow, I don't think whoever this is will care. I have to do something. Tien began to focus himself, trying to draw out as much of his power as he could muster before the angry power arrived. Whoever killed the Jinyu force is right up ahead. I'll show him the true power of the strongest fighting force in the universe. Captain Jinyu's anger was manifest in his aura, a raging purple that was fluctuating rapidly as it burned through the air around him. The landscape was nothing more than a blur as he sped towards the one who had killed his subordinates. Over in the distance, he saw someone powering up. He consulted his scouter, and a sneer formed on his face. That's the location. He's got to be the one. His power level is 80,000. How did he beat the force with only 80,000? He landed on the grass and glared at the tired Tien. Are you the one who killed my men? Tien dropped into his fighting stance, fatigue evident on his face. He steeled his eyes and returned the purple fighter's glare. And if I am? He asked. Jinyu growled as he let his anger wrap around him. Bringing his power to its max, Tien cringed as the surge of energy gave him a slight headache. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut through, and before any fighting could begin, Jinyu's voice rang out. Tell me one thing, he asked, menace dripping off of his every word. How did you beat my men with only a power level of 80,000? Jis and Berta shouldn't have lost to you. Tien managed a small grin as he squared his shoulders. Simple. Like this. He focused his mind and began to raise his power up further. He shot up sharply, but then hit a wall. No matter how hard he focused his ki, he couldn't bring it to his max. Jinyu laughed, looking at his scouter. 92,000. 000. So, you have the ability to hide your energy from scouters. I see. But still, 92,000 isn't anything amazing. Well, no matter. It's time you died. Jinyu dashed forward, bringing his head into Tien's stomach in a lunging headbutt. Tien spit out blood as he fell back, completely outclassed. Why can't I raise my power higher than this? My maximum was much more than this. Suddenly a thought came to him. When I was split, I took a lot of damage. His eyes shot open as he realized what was wrong. A third of me is unconscious. That's why I'm having trouble keeping focus. I'm at 2/3 power at best. This can't be good. I wonder where Krillin is. Krillin sat up and felt like a new person. Guru smiled in amazement as Krillin stared at his hands in awe. Your powers are truly remarkable. I have never seen a power like yours before. You may have what it takes to save our peaceful world. I wish you luck. Krillin nodded wordlessly and turned to leave. As he reached the door, he turned back to the great Guru and smiled meekly. Thank you. I'll do whatever I can. Krillin shot off into the air, feelings of doubt and fear plaguing his mind. Nail turned to the Guru and gave him a questioning look. Should I go with him? Guru shook his head with a small smile. No. I'm sorry to say you would be of no help. Things have gotten far beyond our reach. I fear we have no choice but to place our trust on these outsiders. He closed his eyes and began to reach out with his energy. Ah, Nail, go and get denned. I have something else that requires your attention. Tien groaned as he took another punch from the powerful Jinyu. The leader of the Jinyu force seemed to have the powers of all of his men, except for the telekinesis. He had super speed, super strength, and exceptional ki ability. It was no wonder he was the head of the greatest fighting force in the galaxy. With his power cut short, Tien was finding standing up to the captain a lot tougher than it sounded. He gathered up his strength and formed his ki into a point on his finger. Danpa! The laser blast raced towards its target. Jinyu threw his hand up and caught the blast in his hand. There was a small explosion, and a puff of smoke faded in the air. Sorry, not strong enough. Jinyu grinned as he started pummeling the Triclops with a rapid flurry of punches. Tien couldn't even manage to block anymore, and each attack brought him closer to the end of the fight. Blood had stained several spots all over his body, and his left eye was swollen shut. Feelings of despair began to run through his head. To die on a strange planet such as this. And that damn Vegeta. He'll be so smug when he finds out we failed. A picture of the grinning prince floated through his head, and he felt his rage redouble. I will be damned if I let that arrogant bastard be right. We humans have strength as well. Tien lunged at Jinyu, catching him completely off guard. A sharp elbow found its way into Jinyu's throat, and a knee became lodged in his stomach. Jinyu managed to straighten up, desperately trying to regain his breath. His face was painted not in anger, but surprised respect. He was down for the count a second ago. Maybe that's how he did it. I've never seen such resolve in a doomed fighter before. Tien's short-lived attack dwindled, and his final bit of reserve energy was depleted. Jinyu smiled as he brought his hand back for the final strike. You have done well. Far better than I thought you would. You have impressed me, and you have worried Lord Frieza. For that you should be proud. But you have reached the end. Receive your warrior's death. Jinyu pulled back his fist, preparing to deliver the death blow to the three-eyed assassin. Right before he struck, however, his scouter began to sound off. Several numbers popped onto the small viewer. Jinyu's eyes went wide. 144,000? He looked at Tien, skepticism on his face. No way that was you. Too far off. But it's coming. And fast. Jinyu grinned as he turned back towards Tien. You are a lucky bastard indeed. You get to live for a little while longer. And you also get the honor of seeing one of my greatest attacks. Jinyu shook his head as he tried to get the number out of his head. 144. I couldn't stop that if I were fresh. Who could it be? It might be a friend of this guy. A true warrior knows when to quit. Time for a tactical maneuver. Tien's eyes opened slightly as he felt the power en route. He managed a small smile and uttered, Krillin. Jinyu smiled. So that's his name, Krillin. right? He charged a small amount of ki into his fist, and Tien winced, preparing himself for the final blow. After several seconds, nothing happened. The Earthling opened his eyes and saw Jinyu plunge his fist deep within his own ribs. Tien's eyes went wide and he stood up, confusion etched across his features. But why? There was a sudden uproar of ki from Jinyu, and through a twisted smirk, the words, "Body change," rung out. A thin line of ki burst from Jinyu's mouth and sped towards Tien. The energy went into Tien's mouth, and he felt a strange sensation, as if the world had spun around him. When his vision returned, he found himself staring at himself. Before him was the form of the three-eyed human warrior Tien. Tien tried to take in a deep breath, but found it hurt to breathe. He looked down and saw a gaping hole in his rib cage. Wait a second. Didn't Jinyu just do that to himself? Tien's body turned to face him, and gave him an evil smirk that he had seen before on Jinyu's face. Harsh realization set in, and Tien's head began to spin. I'm inside Jinyu's body. He switched bodies with me somehow. That's why he wounded himself. To incapacitate me. But why? He had me beat. Just to make things clear, Tien in Jinyu's body will still be referred to as Jinyu. Writing has a little to do with wordplay and a lot to do with imagery. If I write Tien, you will picture our favorite three-eyed psychic. If I write Jinyu, you will picture the winner of the Mr. Ugly Award. So Tien inside Jinyu's body is Jinyu, and Jinyu inside Tien's body is still Tien. Confused yet? Well, so is Tien. Tien saw the confused expression written on Jinyu's face. Still don't get it, do you? I have the ability to switch bodies. Now, you will be Captain Jinyu. Jinyu tried to use a harsh tone, but his wound said otherwise. His words came out little above a whisper. But you were winning. Why did you switch? The evil smirk had yet to leave Tien's face. Your friend is on his way. And do you know? I don't think I could have taken him without the Force. Now, Tien tapped his forehead with a knowing smile. Sometimes a warrior needs more than brains, yeah? Now, this Krillin is going to arrive, and he's going to be angry. And guess who looks exactly like the evil Captain Jinyu? Tien took a moment, letting his words sink in. Where is Krillin? I can't sense him in this disgusting body. I need to find a way out. Krillin came to a halt, looking down at the scene below him. Tien was talking with some strange purple alien. The alien was on its knees, and there was a large wound near where Krillin had to assume was his ribcage. In the privacy of his head, Krillin let out a little cheer. Leave it to Tien to beat those alien bastards. And then, with a slightly more ashamed voice, Krillin thought, thank Cammy. Maybe I won't need to fight. Krillin landed softly, still getting a feel for his newfound power. He turned towards Tien and smiled. Hey Tien, you managed to beat this guy. Tien nodded, but his movements seemed awkward. Krillin put it down to adjustment difficulties. It was certainly very weird having so much more power flowing through your body. Krillin rubbed the back of his neck and grinned. Your power feels a little weak. Was there any trouble? There was a bit of difficulty, but I managed to succeed in the mission at the end. Tien's voice sounded rather rough, and the wording was off. But Krillin was far too nervous to notice it. Yeah. Okay. So what are we gonna do with him? To be honest, I'm surprised you haven't killed him yet. Tien's eyes narrowed and he turned toward the alien. That's right. We should dispose of this vermin. The alien's eyes went wide, and he spoke up for the first time. Krillin, don't kill me. I'm Tien. Krillin tilted his head to the side and frowned. What? Tien threw his arms up. Don't let him fool you. That's Captain Jinyu. He's the strongest warrior in the galaxy, except for Frieza. Jinyu managed to stand up to his full height, and blue blood began to leak from his wound. He let out a weak cough as he attempted to protest. You don't understand, Krillin. I'm not Jinyu. He switched bodies with me. That's nonsense. Don't listen, Krillin. He tried to trick me in the same manner. Krillin looked back and forth between the two figures on either side of him. The familiar form of his childhood friend Tien, and the strange purple horned body of Captain Jinyu. He felt incredibly torn. These decisions aren't for me to make. Goku would know which one was the real Tien. Jinyu tried to grab at Krillin, but he dodged to the side. Ask me anything. Ask me about Yamcha. Krillin's eyes went wide, and for the first moment since he had landed, he wondered what had happened to his friend. But before he had a second to dwell on it, Tien shouted, "He and his men killed Yamcha. Before I could arrive, they finished him off with this strange energy attack. Krillin, you can't let this thing fool you. For Yamcha." Krillin's fist bunched into a ball, and Jinyu hung his head. Now Krillin is blinded. I just gave that monster a name to trigger Krillin's emotion. Damn. Krillin pulled back his hands and began to charge his ki. Yeah, you're right. For Yamcha. Jinyu began to panic and threw up his hands. No, Krillin, don't do it. And without realizing, almost as if reflex, he reached out to Krillin with his mental abilities. Krillin. Jinyu paused as he noticed the slight hesitation. Did it work? Of course. Even in this body, I still have my telepathy. That has nothing to do with my body. Krillin. It's me, Tien. Don't acknowledge this. Just listen. Krillin continued to hold his Kamehameha stance, but his ki was no longer charging. The telepathy had his attention. Okay, listen. You know only I could do this. This is my voice. I know you know this. Krillin had to keep himself from nodding. If it wasn't Tien, then it was a really good imitation. And a telepathic imitation at that. Not likely. Good. Now you must understand. The Tien in front of you is a false one. The true Tien you know is trapped within that purple alien body. You mustn't kill me. But he is crafty, and I would like to get my body back if at all possible. So we need a plan. You need to stall him for a little longer until the moment is right. I think I can take care of it. Krillin let his attack drop. A vein bulged out in Tien's forehead, and he began to scream in anger. What are you doing? Kill it. It destroyed Yamcha. Don't you wish for revenge? Krillin turned to Tien and shook his head. I want revenge, but you know I can't kill. It's just the way I am. Tien's rage multiplied, and his voice rose even higher. Can't kill. All that power, and you won't even kill. What a waste. He thrust his hands out to either side, and his ki rose slightly. Well then, I suppose I shall have to relieve you of your power. Body change. Krillin stared on in horror as the small thin beam raced towards him. Jinyu smiled. Perfect. His own aura began to rise, and he concentrated his entire being into his outstretched hands. This body snatcher thinks he is so superior. He forgets that he deals with the master of technique and discipline. Such a simple attack. Knowing that he wouldn't be able to get the wounded body he was currently trapped into the beam in time, he focused all of himself into his hands, preparing himself for his new technique. Once you saw a move like that, you realized how simple it truly was. Kanpa Kaho! He screamed as he sent forth a blast of ki. Jinyu's body seemed to go lifeless as the blast left his hands, and rocketed towards the body change beam nearing Krillin. Right before the blast reached the small monk, there was a large explosion of light. The attack Jinyu had unleashed collided the one Tien had sent out. As the smoke cleared, Tien flexed his hands in awe. Jinyu's body crashed into the ground, lifeless, and right in front of Krillin. A strange apparition seemed to scream in the air for a moment, before it faded away. Krillin looked around in confusion. Tien smiled as he dropped to the floor in exhaustion. Man, it feels good to be back in my own body. Krillin walked up to Tien, still wondering exactly what had just went on. He shook his head and voiced his concern. What the hell just happened? Are you even Tien? Yes, Krillin. I'm back in my body. You may rest easy now. Out loud, Tien said. It was simple, really. That beam that was racing towards you was what he used to switch bodies with people. From what I gathered, he basically launches his soul at you and somehow forces your soul into the body he was just in. Krillin nodded. Aha! That's how he got inside you. Yes, it sounds complicated, but once you think about it, it's rather simple. The basics of the attack are similar to my Kikaho. Instead of using your life force, you just use your soul. So right before that blast hit you, I launched my soul in the way. Oh, but then what happened to Jinyu? Tien gave Krillin a grim smile. Did you notice that shade that disappeared? Krillin gave a silent nod. That was Jinyu's soul. It had nowhere to go. But what about his body? It was too far away. When it collided with my soul, it switched places with it. But there was no body there, so it sort of just faded away. Krillin made a face of disgust. Yikes! What a way to go! Tien nodded. Maybe, but I'm sure it was something he was prepared for. You would have to be being a master of such a technique. Tien's body was tired, and he knew that he needed a rest. Thankfully, Krillin hasn't thrown a single punch. Maybe I can catch some rest now. Tien's eyes began to droop, and right as he fell asleep, a thin pink beam cut right through where his heart was. His eyes closed completely, and he finally got his rest. The world faded from a green into a deep shade of gray. He once again felt the sensation of being pulled from his body, but this time not by force. His soul eased its way from the dimension of the living, and he reformed at the door to otherworld. He looked at his hands incredulously, wondering if this were truly his hands, or if he was holding this form only out of habit. In a strange way, he felt as if an incredible weight had been lifted off of his shoulders. Time no longer had any meaning, and worry was something that happened to other people. He vaguely wondered if all the people he had killed throughout his life had went through this, but he was cut off as a nerdy-looking demon pulled out a clipboard and cleared his throat, grabbing his attention. Right this way, Mr. Tien. Dend. Over here. Nail motioned for his young companion to come closer, looking down towards the floor with a look of worry. Guru said this Namekian was alive. But look at him. Deep in a crater, the mighty demon Prince Piccolo laid unconscious, purple blood caked on several places of his body. Finding him had been difficult, as there was almost no life left in the fearsome warrior's body. But now that they had come closer, Nail could feel a small spark, buried deep within the wounds. Perhaps he could be saved. Dend reached his hands into the crater and began to work his craft. Krillin's heart nearly did a double take as he watched the beam slice through Tien's heart. He had been so excited about Jinyu's death that he hadn't noticed any powers approaching them. He spun around, and standing on a cliff was a strange white creature. There was a strange power emanating off of it, but it didn't feel incredibly strong. The creature wore a snarl on its face, and when it spoke, the words came out in short, sharp barks, like one who is used to giving orders. You are the one who killed Captain Jinyu. Krillin went to shake his head, obviously intimidated by the aliens standing before him. No, well, yeah, kind of. He finished with a squeak in his voice. The creature's fury began to fuel his power, and he allowed himself to show his max. Krillin eyes went wide as he felt the power flowing through the creature. This is unreal. Nothing could have this much power. His senses had been attuned toward the creature, and the sudden flash was like staring at the sun through a high-powered telescope to all his senses. He lost all sensation in his body, and he dropped to the floor, blood oozing from his mouth and his ears. All he could feel was a great white light, and it burned. Eventually, the great creature reached his peak, and Krillin managed to prop himself onto his elbows. The sudden intake of senses overloaded his stomach, and he began to forcefully vomit bile. After several minutes of this, he finally managed to stand up, his knees wobbling uncontrollably. He tried to speak, but realized he hadn't been breathing the whole time. With a sharp cough, he managed to take in some air as he tried to pull himself together. The creature laughed, pulling back his hands in a strange fighting stance. Have you any clue who I am, boy? Krillin couldn't even talk yet, managing only a meek shake of the head. The creature's face twisted into a hideous grin, one that was used to the sight of people being tortured and the sight of people dying. His eyes seemed to hold a sort of interest in that kind of thing. He found he lived for these kind of moments. I, stupid earthling, am the almighty Frieza. Krillin shook his head, trying to make the world right again. Standing before him was the mighty Frieza. We survived against that Zarbon guy. We beat this Jinyu force. And now this. It isn't fair. The small monk concentrated his own ki, trying to ease the feeling that he was being crushed from within. He felt himself hit his maximum as if through a haze, like his body was miles away. Everything seemed surreal in the face of Frieza's power. Frieza let his ki lift him off the ground gently, coming down from the cliff he was residing on and landing next to the disoriented human. Krillin was almost knocked back by the sheer force of his presence. He held his ground through force of will alone and steeled himself for an attack. The monk rushed forward, bringing his fist up at the dictator's face. In a motion with speed that Krillin couldn't even fathom, Frieza dodged by simply tilting his head to one side. His tail whipped up, cracking Krillin in the jaw and knocking him into the air. He managed to right himself, preparing to defend against an attack that never came. He looked down to find Frieza staring up at him with an amused expression on his face. "You have taken one of my hits and you aren't unconscious. I'm impressed. Even Captain Jinyu would have fallen to a solid connection such as that." Before Krillin could even respond, Frieza had covered the ground between them and was floating next to him with his finger pointed at the small fighter's head. "But don't get too excited. You still have no chance," he finished as he flicked Krillin's forehead with his finger. Krillin flew back a bit in a spin, coming up with a Kamehameha. Frieza laughed, swatting the attack aside with what appeared to be a minimal effort. Krillin slowly dropped to the ground, closing his eyes and concentrating. Frieza laughed and began to slowly follow. "This one is amusing. Perhaps I will keep him alive a little longer," he mumbled to himself. Krillin concentrated his ki in a deep meditation, and his aura began to flicker around him in a visible flare. Frieza raised an eye in surprise, consulting his scouter. "Let's just see how powerful this little one truly is." His eyes widened in shock at the result. Over 175,000? And rising. Krillin's energy continued to rise until it sharply cut off, apparently reaching its peak. Frieza growled as he read the final number. 200,000. That's almost half my own power. Krillin pushed his energy to the front of his being and centered it between his hands, similar to how he would create a Kamehameha. Once he had reached the level of a normal Kamehameha, he continued to focus his rage, his frustration. "I've reached levels the others could only think about. We have gone beyond each impossible situation put in front of us. And he has the nerve to mock us, to toy with us." The blast began to take shape, a spheroid orange ball that hovered in place about 3 inches from Krillin's outstretched hands. Sweat began to form on his forehead as he continued to dump his energy into the sphere. Once it had reached its boiling point, he let the energy even out, and he used his concentration to take control of the blast. "Kakasaden!" he screamed as he shot the ball at the small tyrant. Frieza prepared to dodge. A blast of that magnitude may even scratch him. But when the ball left the monk's hands, it moved at a crawl. That fool! He sacrificed all of the speed of his attack for power. What a waste of energy! Frieza moved to the side, allowing the blast to float by him. He let out a small chuckle as he went to attack the monk, but noticed that he still had his eyes shut and was still exerting himself tremendously. Realizing it a second too late, he turned around to see the blast behind him come to a stop and separate forcefully into 7 separate beams. All 7 flew back very quickly towards him, and even with his great speed, there was no way to avoid them. All of the attacks converged on the mighty tyrant, creating a forceful explosion that knocked the tired Krillin to the ground. After several seconds, he propped himself up on his elbows, laughing lightly to himself. Krillin watched as the smoke cleared, but instead of seeing a wounded Frieza, there was nothing but the Namekian landscape. Before he could react, there was a white blur from above, and then Frieza's foot was buried in the human's stomach, crushing him into the floor. The attack came so fast it seemed as if he suddenly appeared even to Krillin's enhanced senses. Blood and spit flew from Krillin's mouth as his insides were crushed under the evil tyrant's foot. "Now do you understand the futility of your actions, human?" Krillin looked at Frieza's foot, with its strange shape and scaly surface. It was separated into 3 toe-like appendages. "I wonder how he keeps his balance with those feet?" Krillin almost laughed, despite his situation. "Funny how you take in such strange details moments from death." Krillin thought back to Nappa. The brutish Saiyan had done the same thing to him. Feels like ages ago. Krillin allowed all of his power to envelop him, and in a haze of desperation and adrenaline, he grabbed onto Frieza's foot and attempted to throw him off with a hoarse scream. Unlike the situation with Nappa, however, Frieza simply increased the pressure, slamming Krillin even further into the ground. The dirt below him parted, and the rock began to crack, leaving him in a private crater. Frieza pulled his foot off of the monk and laughed. "That's it? I had expected something a little more." He shrugged, pulling back one of his hands and charging an energy blast. Teoken! The scream was accompanied by a blinding flash of light, burning an image of white into Frieza's eyes. He let out a cry of pain as he clenched his eyes closed, trying to regain his vision. Right after the flash of light, there was a flash of pain. Krillin shot off a Kamehameha behind him, using the attack like a rocket booster, hurtling into Frieza's face with a well-placed kick. Frieza flew backwards, crashing into the ground several feet away, his hands holding the place where Krillin had kicked him. A small trickle of blood began to ooze out of the dictator's mouth. You hurt me?" Gone was the playful and well-mannered voice from before. There was now a tone of urgency and anger in Frieza's words. "I will make you suffer." Gohan had just finished his lunch and was upstairs working on his schoolwork. His mother was pressing more and more work on him the longer his father had been gone. Gohan found himself desperately hoping he would return soon. Mom sure has gotten cranky over the past year. She only misses Goku. Chaozu's voice cut through his mind's wanderings. "Master Chaozu." Gohan jumped out of his seat. "Where are you?" "I'm outside. Come out here, we need to talk." "You two are such show-offs talking with your heads. Why don't you just yell?" Yajirobe's voice cut in, broadcasting his thoughts on telepathy. Over the past year, his psychic powers had developed as well, and he was now able to at least hold on conversation before he used up all his mental energy. Gohan jumped out of the window, catching himself with his ki right before he touched the ground so as to not alert his mother to his exit. They walked off a bit, until they were far away enough to talk without being heard. Gohan tilted his head at his two friends. "Is everything all right?" Chaozu nodded. "We think so. Corinne received word that Kami wanted to see us." "Kami?" Gohan asked in awe. Yajirobe shrugged. "It isn't that special. Kami told Corinne he just wanted the strongest fighters on Earth, and at the moment it's us three." Gohan scratched his head. "But Master Roshi said he could still take all of you. Isn't he the strongest in the world?" Yajirobe laughed. "Yeah, maybe like 50 years ago. That old coot's time is way over." Chaozu smiled slightly, but then his face grew serious. "Kami has been having ill premonitions lately. I think he wants to see us to make sure we're prepared if anything happens. And I haven't heard from Tien in a while." Gohan nodded. "But still, to be called by Kami himself." Chaozu grinned. "Yep, quite an honor. The only other person to ever go up there was your dad." Gohan's eyes went as wide as dishes, and nearly as white. "My dad got to meet Kami?" Yajirobe nodded. "Not only that, but he got to train with him too. So that's why my dad is so strong. But my mom and dad never told me that." Chaozu's smile turned into a small frown. "Well, your mother decided no one should tell you. She didn't want you to get any ideas about training." Gohan hung his head. "Mom is so protective over me." Yajirobe shrugged. "It's more like she's a psycho if you asked me." Gohan shot Yajirobe a warning glare. No matter how upset he got at his mother, he would not allow anyone to speak badly of her. Yajirobe caught the look and nodded, grinning nervously. "Right? Sorry." The three warriors took off into the sky, albeit Yajirobe doing so rather awkwardly. The poor samurai still hadn't gotten the hang of high-speed flying yet, going off towards Kami's lookout to meet with the guardian himself. Nail looked over the landscape of his land, sighing as he saw the carnage inflicted upon it. Houses were nothing more than rubble, several craters littered the ground, and it was impossible to feel any life out there, besides the two superpowers going at it. How he longed for the days of peace. Everything had changed so much in the past week. "Nail!" His thoughts were cut off as Dend called up to him from his work. He had been using his power to the fullest, attempting to revive the Namekian whom they had found buried under rubble and charred all over. "He's awake, Nail." Nail turned his head sharply, unable to believe it. When he had first looked at him, he doubted that anything would bring him back from the brink of death. Nevertheless, the foreign Namekian slowly sat up, shaking his head in grogginess. What's going on?" he asked, obviously confused. Nail and Piccolo looked at each other, and then turned away sharply. Dend cocked his head to the side and smiled. "Wow, you guys really look alike. It's amazing." Piccolo stood up and attuned his senses, looking for any traces of his allies. He couldn't bring himself to use the word friends. Very far off in the distance, he felt two powers that were beyond anything he had ever imagined. Nail must have noticed his confusion. "That is Frieza." "So that's Frieza, but it feels like two entities." Nail nodded. "Someone is fighting him at the moment." Piccolo's eyes went wide. "Could it be Goku?" Nail shook his head. "No, we don't know anyone named Goku. The one fighting him is a human. His name is Krillin." Piccolo's eyes went wide in shock. "That small human? How did he get so strong? How long have I been out?" He turned away from his rescuers. "I thank you for your help, but I have to go destroy that monster." Piccolo went to take off, but was stopped by Nail's hand. Piccolo shivered at the touch. Never before had he felt a fellow Namekian. It was odd, almost comforting. He was definitely not used to that. He snapped his head around, converting his discomfort into anger. "How dare you touch me?" he yelled, smacking the hand off of his shoulder. "What do you want?" Nail met his glare. "There is no way you will be able to fight Frieza on your own. You are much too weak." "What?" Piccolo swung out a fist, nearly catching Nail in the face. Nail simply tilted his head to the side, dodging the attack. Piccolo threw out a flurry of kicks, all of which Nail dodged with ease. Piccolo growled through clenched teeth and yelled, "Quit dodging! If I could just—" Nail grinned, stopping completely. Piccolo's next attack smashed directly into Nail's face. Nail didn't so much as flinch. Piccolo looked at his hand in shock. Nail swung out a lazy punch that slammed into Piccolo's chest, sending him flying backwards. Piccolo finally calmed down, amazed at the power his fellow Namekian had just shown him. "Now will you listen to me? We only have one chance to beat Frieza." Piccolo's ears pricked up. "How do you propose we do that?" Nail grinned. "We merge." Frieza's left hand shot out, smashing into Krillin's face. The small monk was sent tumbling backwards, crashing into a large rock several feet away. His energy reserves were nearly depleted, and it was beginning to show. Not much longer now, he thought. Well, at least I tried. He's just too much. Frieza lunged at Krillin in a flying lunge kick. Krillin used the last of his strength to jump into the air, barely avoiding the savage attack. Frieza's foot instead smashed into the large rock, sending up rocks and debris. Krillin hung in the air, waiting for the next assault. 10 seconds. Krillin's eyes went wide. Frieza repeated himself, letting the words sink in. "You have 10 seconds to live." Frieza was declaring the human's death.